these things happen sometimes. Just get too busy, and it is
Oh,
what
it
it
was
is.
Memorial Day. We decided to join our friends over on RTO for
Yep.
their Redneck Memorial Day thing.
Yes, indeed. And we are also we got a full star-studded cast.
Well, one star studded cast.
Well,
Oh, you haven't gotten those removed yet, then?
uh, and we have excuse me,
Is that Kreggles?
And Steve. How's it going, Steve?
and
Going
special
well.
guest Ed.
Excellent.
Ed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You might know him as Ennui, otherwise,
I don't.
from our
I
chat.
don't know anybody on the internet. If you guys have time for drama, I'm locked away. Oh, there goes my bounce.
I'm just some guy, man.
To be
Aren't
found
we
at
all?
Lively Lethargy on X or Twitter, whichever you like.
We all.
Yeah, pretty
Oh.
much. But
I
anywho,
mean, I don't know about you, but I'm the main character, definitely.
well, we all are. Really.
I mean, you might have main character syndrome.
Maybe. You never know. But anyway, speaking of characters, we should probably talk about the whole thing that's going on with, the latest fuckery around Nintendo. Firstly, being that Walmart's canceled apparently many thousands of pre-orders because they don't expect to have enough.
They're out of stock.
Yeah. So it seems out of stock on pre-orders.
That's interesting.
And apparently GameStop's also been allocated between 50 and 100 handhelds to each of their given storefronts.
Well, scalpers are going to be a little upset then, I guess.
No, scalpers are gonna love it.
Yeah, they will.
Shortages are good for scalpers, my friend.
Well, it's only good if the stock is available for them to get a hold of.
No. See, the scalpers, they get whatever stock's available.
And that they do. They were camping out in front and all
Again,
that shit.
Yeah.
Again, it's only if they can get their hands on them are they happy. They're just as upset as everyone else if they can't get anything.
But on a related note to the Switch 2, there are some people that have gotten their hands on one. And,
Yes, there are.
And they've had some
Figured out real quick something.
They've had some very interesting results. Because,
Yeah.
As people are wont to do with the new console at launch, they're trying to break into it, see what they can do with it, emulation, modding, all that.
What exactly are the possibilities?
And
Yes.
it looks like they've got a really locked down system.
They spent a lot of effort, it seems, on evading tampering of any sort, as well as diagnostic investigation of kind of the basic sort. And it seems that some people have gotten nastygrams simply for looking at the system with electronics. And by nastygram, I mean like show up to court or pay for the item that you've stolen from us or whatever it actually said. The implication here was that it is somehow against their terms for you to look at it, look at the electronics, investigate it.
Yeah. So
Is this something that these people actually had physically bought and owned?
Yeah. So that's the thing is it's not fully clear as to what level of contractual obligation was negotiated there. Some of these people were legitimate play testers.
Mm-hmm.
So
they may not have actually owned the Switch that they were sent. They might have only just been sent hardware.
Right.
Or
and
under
so
contract
the
to,
court
not
has
release.
ruled on this.
Whatever.
And the ruling's pretty clear. You own your electronics.
Right.
There's what was it? I think it was iPhone.
That's the idea. That's
iPhone
the whole idea.
did something where they started passing software that prevented you from actually using your electronics.
So you got to remember.
Obsolescence.
You got to remember that we're talking about Nintendo, who does not give a shit about court rulings until they rule against them.
I mean, that's
then,
all
they
well
just
and
do whatever
good.
they want.
That's all well and good, but in this case, it does matter, right? Like they do have a legal team.
Yeah, it does matter. But again,
so in the
you got to
event
consider
that Nintendo decided to broad base start suing people, and they were very clearly in the wrong based on previous court rulings, then their legal team would say, "Shut the fuck up, sit down, be quiet." But in this case, this is pre-testers or whatever, so they didn't actually buy the equipment. So you're talking about basically something that's either a loaner unit or a gift or something like that. And my guess would be that overall, you're looking at essentially that as the problem, where technically Nintendo is saying, I own this system, and they do. In which case, you don't have the right to look at the electronics.
Well, above and beyond that, they have
Well,
locked it down to
so-
a point where you really can't.
So again, the point I was going to make here is you have to also consider that they will put a EULA or a click wrap on these things, which you could say that you can't promise your rights away in certain ways that are unconstitutional, illegal, whatever. So yeah, there's jurisprudence, but they're going to write wherever they can get away with into these things, and you still have to take it to court as an individual in order for it to be ruled one way or another. So oftentimes companies like Nintendo will factor that into how much they're going to try and get away with.
It's also the culture, because Japanese copyright law is really strict. So like their mindset is totally different.
Yeah. But they also use American lawyers who you'd think by now would have told them your laws do not apply in the United States.
Well, if we've seen
And so-
anything of
My
American
my
lawyers,
guess is that they're probably legally in the right. Like,
With
regardless
this,
of how we
sure.
feel about it, I bet you that
Yeah.
they are very much legally in the right.
Now, that said, the funny thing here is how easy it would be to trip a sensor or a sensor circuit looking for voltage differences. That
yeah,
might
if
be
your
suspicious.
house's wiring isn't great or particularly modern.
Say your
it is
electric company
possible.
has a late switch, and the voltage dips suspiciously if it's plugged into the wall. How easy is it going to be to get them to send out an email to you saying, "Hey, by the way, pay for your device or pay a fee, or be taken to small claims court."
Now that said, that's just going to be with the testers. But what's
Right,
that
but
going
how
to
does
mean
that
with
might
the final
extend out
product?
to-
I mean, is it possible
Yeah.
that something like that could cause it to be bricked because of some EULA?
Well, I
about
bet
you're
you.
not going to modify it, or we're going to lock your account, kind of deal.
I
That's a
bet
real
you it's going to
concern.
be
Well, again,
something to
they
the
wouldn't
effect
be
of
able
a
to
fee.
legally in the United States. You can't brick the electronics.
Well, no, you'll still be able to turn it on and all, and access every single piece of software that is latently on it or on disk. Cough.
Oh, it's not on. There's no on disk. That's the
Right,
fun part. exactly.
And
Yeah.
since you can't access the cloud, well,
Now, here's the best part: is the firmware flash utility is a lightweight piece of software that connects to the Nintendo server and downloads the latest firmware. There is no way to downgrade. There's no way to install your own firmware via that route.
yeah, they've made.
You would have to
some
do
ways
something
to
like
spoof
spoof
server.
the address for
Yeah.
the server through your own router and basically just pull it on a LAN, which you could do on your own computer. Like, it's possible to do that just on one PC. But even then, you'd probably have to deal with some negotiation of a checksum or a signature by public key, what have you. To have verified installs of legitimate firmware, and I'm guessing that it has a way of counting upward and not downward for firmware versions. So downgrading might still be impossible. Who knows?
Yeah, don't know anything yet. Not until I guess the 5th of June when these things officially drop.
Although, speaking of June and knowing things, I have an update on something which a pestering dipshit on Twitter made me actually go and do because I was curious after they decided to be annoying.
Oh, did
You
it
know
have to
how
do with
last year
rainbows?
we found out that it was 145 days in the calendar that was consumed by the alphabet celebration? I have an update for you on that.
Do tell.
So I went and counted it myself. Well, this person was like, I think he probably went and he just collected that on the internet like I did for a separate picture complaining about how many military holidays there are because that person's a putz.
Oh, okay.
So I
I'll
went and counted
include a link
myself.
to your post on that with the full 2025 calendar year as well, so that everybody.
Yeah, I went and I counted
Enjoy.
myself, and there's one little bit that I'm not sure about because, and I know it's in December, but I don't know which week it is. Last year it was the week of December 2nd, but it's going to be a week in December, so that one could be a week later, could be the same week, who knows? But there's 188 days, calendar days that are celebrating the alphabet now, and if you include overlaps, there's 227 separate different event days. So that's 188 days is over half a year, by the way.
That it is. 365.
It was almost half a year last year. Now it is definitely over half a year. There's 5 entire months that are blocked out for this shit.
Now, from what I hear, there is the possibility that we might be moving into Veterans Month. So we'll have to see.
So that's what I would love that to happen. Because I think military is active duty, you know? So, like, I get that it could cover veterans, but, like, I think that veterans deserve their own month. Like, Veterans Day is great and all, but...
Well, certainly
188 days.
That the length of time that you have should be directly proportional to your contributions to society. And I don't mean
about your population
American
amount?
society, I mean overall advancement of the human species. So, like,
population. Well, then there's LGBT.
Engineers half year. And
then there's Alphabet Hour 1 day a year.
Hour.
Okay.
Whoa.
Hour. I think hour's okay. That can include like 59 minutes of being over it.
Yeah, but we've also got to like take a few away for Harvey Milk and all. You know, come on. Just saying.
But yeah. Now the number's been updated.
Is all.
Yeah. Now the number's been updated. You know, this is actually one of the few times I prefer to be noticed by the larger grifters, because I think that everyone should know what the number is. It's no longer 145; it's 188, which is just wild. And I used Wikipedia as my source for that, which otherwise would be probably not very accurate. But considering the way that they've managed to take it over like a cancer.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking,
I'm pretty sure that everything's been accounted for.
That's exactly where you will find everyone, probably down to the minute, honestly.
Well, I know I sat there and I sent earlier the link to the Culture War episode for yesterday on Tim Pool, and the speaker there was actually very, very good. She was liberal. She did try to answer the "what is the woman" thing, and that would be a wonderful dissection. But one of the key points that she made is, regardless of whether you're on the left or the right, we can all kind of agree that the trans community and the LGBT stuff has gone insane. Regardless of whether or not you believe in, equal rights and all this other stuff, it's gotten to the point where it's getting nuts, and we all need to kind of acknowledge that. And they've done a tremendous amount of damage to their entire cause by doing that.
Which is why I mention them as the alphabet, because, like, I know gay people, I know there's, like, a couple people that are trans that I know. I know lesbian people, like, they're all otherwise normal people that just do not give a fuck and are tired of it.
Yep.
And I can appreciate that. I think that it's fucking irritating when, Julie McJustine decides to go and say the most retarded, stereotypical shit on my behalf.
Oh, Shmuley.
Yeah. I'm totally on board with them being annoyed with this stuff. I get it.
Yep.
And it doesn't help, like, with what happened with Glenn Greenwald, that doesn't help their cause.
I am
By the
not
way,
entirely sure what happened.
Speaking of him,
Oh boy!
I heard that there was video and all of that. Like,
Ed,
there is no
you
part
may go
of it
ahead.
that I say, you know what? I want to watch this.
Look,
Ed, you go ahead and describe it for him, please.
Okay, I have autoplay turned off on Twitter for a reason.
That's very good.
Smart.
So I've only heard it described. He was in a maid costume, sucking the toes of a black hooker, or a male black prostitute. That's what it was.
I heard Brazilian, but whatever.
That's the same thing.
Who knows? Whatever. I don't care to look any further into it than the description I've heard. So yeah.
But the guy who recorded it posted it, and then Greenwald himself retweeted it.
He did.
And then he's like, "Oh well,
which is the weird part. Like, if he hadn't retweeted it, all of this stuff, like I'm being blackmailed or this or that or whatever.
Well, the male prostitute was into findom, and that's what the whole thing was about. It's a humiliation fetish.
Yeah.
Well, with the amount of dumb shit he says. With the amount of dumb shit that he says, and he generally does good on, like, free speech, but then he goes off the deep end and says dumb shit, and I'm guessing that's where his humiliation kink comes in, isn't it? Kind of has to be.
And it,
I don't know,
and
man.
it really reads like a kink kind of thing too, because that's not a thing you would retweet. No one that doesn't
What
want to
happened?
be
Like, did the guy
humiliated.
dare him? The guy either dared him. Maybe he took his phone. I don't know. Either
Yes.
way, Glenn Greenwald's been weird for a while, and he kind of. Well, I feel bad for him because the woke people took over the Intercept and kicked him out. Like, that was his baby for a while, and then he got ousted by a bunch of nut jobs who were working for him. Like, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, not the first time.
But yeah,
I mean, not in his
but
case
now, like,
necessarily. I mean,
well, yeah,
well, actually, yeah, not the first time he's been outed from somewhere either. But that's
yeah.
that's another issue.
Well, I mean, not even the case. Like, his own, he had another news site he made before the Intercept. The same thing happened.
Yeah, he has.
These fuckers follow
He's
him
got a
and
bit of an
parasitize his
embarrassing
shit.
past. We could say with accuracy.
Well, it's kind of it's a bit of an irony that the things he produces are so frequently parasitized, given the proclivities in the community he circles in.
It's
Needs some ivermectin.
there you go. Get rid of those parasites.
You know?
Absolutely.
I'm guessing he's probably, well, he lives in Brazil, which, you know, they have modern standards to some extent down there, but it's still kind of the same tip for traveling anywhere. You don't drink the local water if you can help it. My guess is, yeah, probably not just from his own other activities, but probably just from drinking the local water. You know, Montezuma's revenge is continent-wide.
I mean, you know what? Whatever an individual wants to do in their own time, they're free to do. That's kind of where I sit with it. As long as I'm not required to participate, why would I?
Yeah, that's the other side. Is I don't mind the alphabet people if they're not fucking on my lawn, right?
Right, exactly. Like I don't care, and that's you know when you go back to things like what was on the culture war yesterday. I don't have an issue with trans stuff. I don't have an issue with LGBT stuff. It doesn't faze me one way or the other, as long as I am not required to be complicit. Right? That's really the defining boundary for me. If you wanna do whatever the fuck it is that you wanna do, you wanna believe whatever you wanna do, as long as I don't have to endorse your sex spirit, or I don't have to sit there and like deal with it being broadcast, and I'm not paying, my tax dollars aren't going to whatever ideological bent you have, right? I don't want to have a Fundy Undies and have them sitting there and teaching kids in schools using my tax dollars. And I also don't want to have a bunch of people prancing around in their undies preaching about what they do with them off, teaching that stuff in my schools. It's not like people will figure out sex stuff all by themselves. We all have a sex drive, except for the people who are intent on proclaiming that they don't have one, in which case I'm pretty sure they're fucking lying.
Well, you actually kind of hope they are telling the truth at a certain point.
No, I think the asexuals are lying. I really do.
I'm still okay with them not participating in any of that in society.
I mean, I do agree, right? Like, from an evolutionary perspective, you go whatever. But at the same time, like the point is the same. Is as long as I'm not required to participate, I don't care. So when it comes to Glenn Greenwald, you know what? If he wants to wear a fucking maid outfit and suck on the toes of somebody, I think that's kind of weird.
I think the funny part is that he wants to be taken seriously.
Weird. But I'm also not going to begrudge him of whatever he chose to do with a consenting adult in his free time.
Yeah, but part of the problem is recording it so it can be put on the internet. It's like nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to see it, but again, if he wants to record it, he is free to record it. It getting released online has nothing to do with me. I don't know.
Yes, but it might. Here's the question: are you ever going to take him seriously? I mean, and I would add again there, but it doesn't even matter if you did before.
Yeah, there's a
knowing what you do now about him.
I would actually say that I have a high amount of respect for Glenn Greenwald. He is, I think he is the one who broke the story involving. What was the guy's name? Not the WikiLeaks one, but the other one.
He's done several high-profile stories like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he really has. So
That's true, yeah.
like he
But
has
again,
what's the guy who broke the like Spectrum Project, the NSA shit?
Prism and
yeah,
whatnot, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was the
yeah.
guy that got that out.
Right? And Glenn
Yeah.
Greenwald was the guy who got that out. He's also he has
Yeah.
cracked down on kind of the woke stuff and cancel culture quite a bit. I believe he was involved in some of the Twitter leaks or the
A little bit. Yeah.
Twitter stuff. Like realistically, again, if you turn around and said that he recorded this sex stuff all by himself, which he is free to do.
Again, though, like, how serious are you going to take him with that now having happened is part of it.
Yeah, there is just nothing to be said about.
Because there's going to be an element, and this happens especially when something embarrassing gets published, but there's going to be an element that immediately distracts now from everything that he publishes with, yeah, but you were sucking on a hooker's toes down in Brazil. And while that is desperation, and it is funny that that's the thing to go to. Like,
So like again, if he's an adult and he did whatever he wants to do in his adult time, yeah, I agree with you guys that I don't want to see it. But if it turned around and he came out and said it was really the CIA hacked into my shit and released it to discredit me, I wouldn't surprise me, given the stories that he's released.
I think I had
That's
heard
fair.
Israel, but
I mean, it doesn't really like pick organization, right?
So I don't know why Israel would really give a fuck about him.
So I'm just saying that it's not. He does the right thing. He is a lefty. He is a gay lefty. But
yes,
he does the right thing. He is a morally from a shared values perspective. He is a morally upstanding individual.
So
who has put his own life on the line, who's put his own career at risk in order to have us know things that we critically need to know about how the government is abusing the populace.
I think
so I'm not gonna fault him,
on
and
shared
I'm not
values.
gonna say, hey, he can't be trusted because in his own free time he got off in his own special way. Right? I'm gonna be
the
much
shared
more
values aspect there is important because that there's some specificity to it.
Yeah.
In what way?
And to be fair,
you don't share the value of
in the congressional
toes at a
quarters
hooker
or anything, you know. So it's not as bad as it could be. It's not great by any means, but at least he was in like a hotel room or some shit and not, the halls of Congress. So
well, and that's
the whole
thing
Senate
too.
thing.
Again, like this is fundamentally at its core a private individual doing private things in their own private time, and somehow it got out. How it got out,
also
how this whole thing got propagated, I can't speak to that.
It also seems to be more of a lefty thing, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Well, I mean, so they are, the left is nothing. So going back again to the culture war thing, right? Where you had the chick who came out and said that woman is a performance, right? The left is all about performance. Like they're all about fucking performance all the time. That's like 90% of what they do is not sit there and, hey, let's think about how this can be rational. Let's act in a rational manner. Let's be truth and honesty. It's all about like, what level of performance can I display to prove that I'm on the right side of history? Right? They don't like this is the fundamental problem with the left is that they get caught up in these culty movements, and it's all about performance. So of course it's going to be on the left because they're all about demonstrably being whatever they are. And don't get me wrong, like, as an individual who happens to be a particular fan of sex, absolutely higher risk encounters are more gratifying, right? They definitely get to that deeper pleasure center of the brain, and so like, everybody should sit there and engage in appropriate, reasonable, and rational behavior. But if I think that everybody's going to be out there sitting there and having missionary sex in their free time, no. I don't think that that's true. I don't expect that. That would be an unreasonable expectation of anybody. So, yeah, is this happening on the left? Yes, but the left is also much more permissive with that. They actively advocate for it. And so again, it's an adult doing whatever they want. An adult who I have high respect for, who has absolutely put themselves in line to do the right thing multiple times. And has every incentive for the government to go out to get him. Sitting there and put into a position of basically flaunting shit out that he does in his own personal free time. Like it doesn't bother me at all.
Well, fair enough.
Yep.
Like if my choice was to know about Prism, I guess this is how I'd put it. If I was to know about Prism or just Prism, and my choice was I either get Prism and have to deal with gay shit, or I don't get Prism and I don't have to deal with gay shit, I'd rather know about Prism.
Well, considering it's not even you dealing with gay shit, it's hearing stories about the guy that leaked it dealing with gay shit.
Right,
So,
exactly. That's the other thing too. Is
I get where you're coming from, totally. Yeah,
well, you say
it's
hearing is the extent right now. A lot of people though, who were not smart enough to not have autoplay on.
Yeah, true. There
didn't really have as much of a choice about it.
People who have got.
Oh, I mean, well, that's why you don't turn on autoplay. Like, I mean,
right.
it's
correct.
personal.
Correct.
You've decided going back to the choosing high-risk scenarios and getting aroused by it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's on by default.
It's the default setting, so
right.
by default, people who have.
And if you're on Twitter for more than 24 hours without sitting there and running into something that you're like, oh shit, like if you haven't learned that it's the default setting and you haven't learned the consequences of being in that setting in 24 hours, what am I supposed to tell you? Like you're really fucking boring at that point.
For sake of argument, I will be the ultra conservative, angry nanny mommy, and say,
isn't that what you always?
But there's children on here.
Yeah. Like,
think of the children.
Be a better fucking parent.
Like, I originally
it is your job as a parent to monitor the content of your children. And honestly, if you are a parent and your child is on fucking social media, you've already failed. Like, because they encountered gay shit, that's the least of the problematic
shit. Talk about conservative nanny there.
No. No, it is your job as a parent to sit there and maintain the mental health of your children, and we all know that social media does bad things for the mental health of children. So don't turn around and come to me and be like, oh my god, children are on X. I'm going to be like, why are they on fucking X? Like, you've already failed, bro.
Yeah. Bully the children from X. This is something we really should all be working on.
I am a firm believer that the if you don't think your children can handle gay shit, you should not be allowing them to be exposed to fucking gay shit. Like this isn't. This is all you do is you put parental codes on for your porn accounts. Make sure you put parental codes on for your social media shit. Like this isn't hard.
That sounds really homophobic, you know.
Steve, so this is an alphabet thing too. That your children should be exposed to this stuff because somehow it's going to make them accepting of alphabet people.
So that's because they're fucking crazy.
Yes. So that segues really well into something we should probably just touch on real quickly. And in the last week or so, there was some notorious, some young boy, I believe he was 15 or 16, that jumped off a bridge somewhere around Oregon, I believe. Anyway, that bridge has been found where that was done, and there have been a number of tributes that have been made to this unfortunate young man. That sadly he was groomed.
Jumping off,
actually. Yeah, he did jump off. It was a long.
No, I didn't mean like the tributes too.
Oh yeah, there's
copycats. You know what I mean?
One hopes not. But now that the environment has become much more toxic around such activities, perhaps these people will reconsider. And maybe not. Because they don't want to be mocked relentlessly in death. And not remembered as brave and what have you. Because I'll just tell you, I've made a couple of comments here and there around on this. I've tried to be relatively polite in some cases, and some of these folks are really, really upset by these affairs. You know, what was it? Goodness, I can't even tell you. Like, I've been arguing with people for like the past 3 days about just this really, really dumb bullshit. And they are so upset that somebody would not be happy that mentally ill child molesters groomed a child and his family into doing horrible things to him that resulted in him committing suicide.
I mean, I get that a child is impressionable on that level, but if you can get the parents on board, or like get to them and deceive them in that manner, they failed, man. Like horribly.
Yep.
Huge failure. Absolutely gargantuan.
That is grotesque and unfortunate.
It is extremely unfortunate. You know, I don't know what the specific story is here, but again, what is it? I made a post earlier this week because I'm getting kind of sick and tired of hearing these stories from men and women about the dating pool and all this other stuff. But right now we have a society where we have men who are being fucking pussies and being weak and being shitty, and women who are being fucking narcissistic, and they've just given into everybody's giving into their worst tendencies. And that goes for parents too. Because parenting is hard. It's basically your final exam for fucking life. Right? And that means that you can't just half-ass it. You can't just be a friend. You have to sit there and make decisions.
Yeah, you gotta be a real parent.
You gotta be a real parent. And that means, by the way, that means you're gonna be making judgments for your child that are not things that you think that they should be abiding by as an adult, but you certainly
they're not always gonna be happy about it.
Right, and you just it's not that you agree with it and this is the way it is. It's just this is the way it is for now because they're a child and they need to be
sometimes the answer is just because
achievable boundaries, right? They need to have boundaries set up so that it allows them to develop appropriately while simultaneously not sitting there and exposing them to something that their little undeveloped brains can't fucking handle.
Yeah. No, I remember having this as an issue with my parents growing up.
Like I have the utmost sympathy
saying,
for everybody.
Why? There was issues. There was a point at which finally my brothers and I, we all, you just start having to say, well, why? When you say to do something, and there's got to be a point where you have that kind of agreement as a parent that they have to be comfortable enough to just do what you say, and you can explain why later if you need to. If it's important enough that it just needs to be done.
Like, in terms of types of parenting, you should, in general, the optimum form of parenting does involve you as a parent explaining to your child the rationale behind the restriction.
But sometimes this kid just needs to fucking do something. Yeah,
sometimes, yes. Yeah, and they need to be
it's necessarily exhausting.
That you're going to explain it to them later. But you do typically need to explain them, and you do need to typically give them choice. And
there has to be follow-through.
That's all part of what makes this stuff difficult.
There has to be follow-through, but the kind of social contract between you and your kid needs to remain established. And when some fuck comes along and grooms them and disrupts that, getting it back is not easy. And so as a parent, you have to be able to get your kid. This is the whole thing, like, if someone comes to pick you up, what's the password kind of thing? Or, only your doctor and your parents can ever ask you to see these parts of your body kind of shit.
Yep.
Like, if someone else is successful in inserting themselves into that role, that is a major problem for you.
It is.
Yeah, that kind of just trust disruption early on in childhood is really hard to repair. Like, as an adult, that's the thing you do routinely for everybody is have trust negotiations. Yep. And that's just part of being a competent adult. But as a kid, those early formative trust associations are really important. So some fucker comes along and it's just like, your parents are bad, I'm good, don't trust them, and here's things that they will do when I tell you not to trust them. And that'll confirm somehow I'm right. Like that kind of flawed logic,
Yeah, kids aren't
guilt
equipped
trap.
to deal with con men.
No,
And the-
they aren't. And
And-
we shouldn't. And by the way, like I am not a fan of the people who do perpetual childhood and perpetual
Oh, yeah.
naivety
Yeah.
and all the other stuff. Like that's equally bad. I'm not, like I'm not of the point where you can't, your kids have to be 18 years old to be talking to them about sex. Like we need to be responsible and mature about this. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge that children have there's a time and a place and a developmental stage that children have to be at for any type of conversation, whatever that may be. And sometimes that's going to align with where society is, and sometimes it's not, and that's the hard part. You're going to have to gauge that for your child. But most of the time, sitting there and trying to explain to a kid how the complexities of human negotiation, when you're not even in the role where you're doing that until you're in your late 20s, like that
Well,
is
I
a
think
tough thing to put a child into.
part of the issue, and this is something that, especially so, I won't say this as a thing that all minorities go through, but certainly extends out eventually as a generalization to something all parents should be doing with their kids. That some people out there are just bad.
Yep.
And they do not they mean you harm, and
Yep.
not for anything you did to them, but because they are genuinely bad people.
And that's a
And,
really hard concept. That's a
It's
really
and
hard
it's a
concept.
really bad, it's a really tough conversation to have with kids. And I've actually been
not
part
the
of that
kind of thing that you
conversation,
should
and
be
it's not
having
good.
with really young kids. But that is something that, like, as you get into the teenage years, you got to be able to be like, look,
Well, I gotta
there
tell
are
you,
fucking sociopaths.
and this is one of those
Parasites.
annoying things where I have to say it like the whole as a Jew bit, but I'm, say it as you will as far as that goes. But there are people out there that just don't like people like me, and that's fine. But that conversation happens a lot younger.
But I understand that because you're a terrible
And
person.
that's it's it. But you can also see, like, in a community like for Black Americans, they had that talk about police.
So
agree
that
with
was
it or not.
bullshit when they said that, because I had that talk with my parents about police.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
exactly. You have that
Basically,
talk, but they
anyone
have it
who
a lot
isn't
earlier.
wealthy had
They
that
have it a
talk
lot
with
earlier
their
as well.
parents.
yeah, anybody who is not in the I can pay the police to go away.
Right.
Or like you happen to be
Like,
that
I remember
child
having this
who-
conversation before I got in a car for the first time to drive it myself.
Yeah, absolutely. That was absolutely one of those.
Right. You get to talk. Look forward. Keep your hands on the wheel and say yes sir or no sir. Right.
Yep.
If they tell you this is what you did wrong, don't fucking argue with it. You can do that in court. Like,
Yep.
the whole entire concept of
Now-
being a competent adult kind of slams in your face at that point.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I have absolutely argued with cops because there are times that they've been fucking unfair.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but
Well, the internet has definitely changed everything when it comes to talking to kids. And a lot of
Yeah.
parents aren't like, they either don't care or they're just not smart enough to put those kind of restrictions on their kids' phones.
Mhm.
I have a cousin who was going through a thing with her daughter where she was starting to think she was trans and putting binders on because
Wow.
she just let her do whatever she wanted on the phone without monitoring any of that, and that's really important.
tremendously.
That's
Well,
nuts.
one of the most tragic effects of this degradation of society is what happened in Nashville not all that long ago. Little update
Yeah.
there. We now have the full archive. Everything has been released,
At the full Tranifesto?
every single bit, and it is every bit as bad as you could imagine. It is
Well, yeah.
anti-male, incredibly anti-Christian, and just
Well,
anti-life.
I'm sure it's. Yeah, that's the part I was gathering from it, from the bits that had already been released, is that it was very much. This person was very depressed and very angry, and
Some
that combination is not
150
good.
or 160 pages that were that she brought along in the car.
Yeah, that was really tragic.
Truly is. It's pretty terrible.
It was.
It's pretty terrible in general. And now I will say, again, this also ties back into the other one. When these people with these mental issues choose to do something incredibly drastic, as hurtful as it may seem, the best action is to make them appear as though they are worthless jesters. Because if they can be laughed
All right,
at...
boys, I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah. But I
Yep.
mean, if you can laugh at these people and they're just fools and idiots, like,
Oh, yeah,
sure,
the
they're evil,
foolish nature of the action does
but
not
they're
mean that they have
fools
less
and
worth as a
idiots,
human.
so we should not give them any sort... Like, if we're going to talk about these people, because apparently we're going to do this.
Well, there's no
We're
due
gonna talk
reverence
about
that
them every
comes from
fucking
being an
time.
asshole.
So, I mean, maybe we need to talk about them in the most horrible of terms.
Well, it's what you get for being a monster.
Yeah. But then that also, with the last one, I made some cheeky comments. I'm not going to lie. I said some spicy shit. I was a little mean here and there, but I didn't go...
the whole, the many percentage memes that came out of that one.
Sure.
I'm happy to share those. Fuck it.
Absolutely. Now, with this one, the jumper that was groomed,
Yeah.
I've said a little bit of spicy stuff. I haven't gone out and posted any of the, like, genuinely mean meme images or any of that shit. And I'm not reposting it either, because that's not me. Now, will I go in there and maybe say something that's a little underhanded and mean? Sure, absolutely will. But I was having a conversation. Okay, so there's this post here. And my reply is immediately that... and it's a reply to somebody that posted just some awful shit. Which, fair enough, whatever. But this guy's like, yeah, you're an idiot, and you're just a piece of shit. So I say to the guy, like, well, yeah, but at least he wasn't groomed into suicide. Yeah, I'm gonna say some spicy shit, and I've got so many replies off of this, people that are so fucking upset, because I'm not gonna attack this kid. I'm gonna attack the ones that fucking groomed this kid, and I have, as a matter of fact. I've called them demons quite literally, because they are. Because quite literally, these people enjoy destroying the lives of children, whether it be to sexually abuse them or just to see them dead. There is no good in that. There's nothing of the better angels of our nature to be found in any aspect of that. Oh, I'm trying to save you from your parent. What? No. Trying to save you from your body?
Some people genuinely mean harm.
It sure the fuck seems that way.
Children need to be protected from them. That's what parents' job is for.
Really do. So, yeah, it's something.
And it's a bit frustrating that for doing that job, they get demonized by a crowd of braying idiots.
Hmm? That's sadly that's the way of things these days.
Yep.
So let's see here. Let's throw out another fun update here. We have been talking just a little bit about the disaster that is Creator Clash. Just kind of mentioning it in passing. And
that's good.
Was it 34% of the profits went to iDubbbz and his wife?
Yes.
Yes, the people with no financial interest or ties to it.
Yeah. So in the interest,
I think it was 34% of the bag that was going to come out of it.
Yeah, 34% of the profit share was to be allocated to Ian and Anissa. That has now been set to become a 20% net profit revenue share with all fighters, which, hey, that's great. If this thing even fucking happens now, because it's been pushed back.
No, it's been delayed to October, right?
Last I heard was indefinite, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think it was originally moved from June or July to October in a different location. But the person who was announcing it said it's okay, they'll be there for everybody who's flying in. It's like that's a big comfort. Everyone's gonna fly to see the one person instead of a fucking event.
Oh,
that is desperate.
That is another thing that happened.
That was the last update that I heard about it. So if it's been since then postponed indefinitely.
Since then, so I think that might be the most up to date information that you've got there.
I was gonna say, if it's been since then definitely postponed, that's probably a good thing for them generally.
It would probably be the wise thing to do. And speaking of
Just go straight
postponements,
to number 4.
here's a very interesting one. In Boise, Idaho, there's been a bit of a postponement. A postponement of the Pride season kickoff due to lack of
Yeah.
participants. Hilariously
How about
enough.
that?
So,
God bless Idaho.
gotta love those potatoes, don't you? I'm telling you. Good stuff.
It just reminded me of George Carlin thing. He's
Famous
talking about different like
potatoes.
slogans. And he said, "This spud's for you."
Mm. Very classy.
Sorry.
Old school, even. And in just a chef's kiss piece of news, that Richard Hanania is an idiot, obviously.
Yes, he is.
But
And
yeah, and he is a. I don't know how to adequately portray what an astoundingly worthless person he is, but the best I can do, I'll share this here. Let me drop this. I'm just going to put this into general, so it's right at the top where you can all see it. Because, not that one. Hold on, this one right here. Because you've got to see it. You really do. Okay, I dropped that in general there, so you can check it out. But
all right, just a sec.
They've got this
Let's see
thing that where I think it's the actual like Democrat establishment that they're trying to do this reach out to men. I can't remember what the name of the program.
Oh
is.
yeah, the swamp creature whale that they have.
Yes.
Leading the way on that. And here's the funny thing is, I've been told that it's female.
And only 22 years old, despite how it looks.
So they say.
Right. I've been told that this thing is female, and I'm not convinced. But it's also at the body mass where you kind of go androgynous. Doesn't really matter like how sharply defined your features were beforehand, but once you get to that size, everything's kind of rounded out to the point of being a guess.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Well,
so
what was it? Yesterday, she posted like that Norman Rockwell meme talking about like frat boys. It's just like, what is this, 1982?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about frat boys?
And
frat boys, and I think that's it.
Yeah. Like who cares about frat boys? Like that hasn't been a cultural thing in like 30 years.
Kind of not.
I can tell you, frats are still very much a thing, but nobody really cares about like the frat culture. The culture part of it is kind of overstated. It's a meme. The actual like benefits of them, having a group of people you've done stuff with, that's great and all. That's about the extent of it. It's a networking opportunity at this point.
Yeah, pretty much anymore. And I mean, if depending on which one you're going with, you might even have to do some really embarrassing stuff if you're like a Bush or something like. Anyway, that's another rabbit hole that involves skeletons and old men. But
well, you see, you're not talking about the Trilambs, who are very important.
Yeah. Talking about something else.
You ever seen the Revenge of the Nerds?
Oh.
Come on, Revenge of the
yeah.
Nerds.
Yes. I was just pretending not to.
Okay. Real quick aside. So much of that would be so far gone, and you cannot do that right now. Like
right?
The end of I think the third one, or was it that one, where the nerd gets the girl because he's dressed up as the jock and just doesn't say anything when she comes in to fool around with him. Like,
that's now rape. Yeah.
Kind of was then too, but it was more innocent.
Kind of was.
Kind of.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a characterization you can make.
You could, and it would be accurate. But anyway, we're talking about fun idiots and not weird ones. Well, also weird ones. Anyway, back to the Richard Hanania thing. So he put out a poster for this event they're doing, Connecting with Young Men. It was supposed to happen right now actually, but it was canceled. And so
why was that?
Who can say? Probably because there's no reason to do it. But it was him, that whalish creature, and then some guy that looks like he does too much heroin. He might not. He might do an adequate amount of heroin. I don't know. I'm just guessing based on the looks. But this Micah fella. So anyway, they had to cancel. And so Richard Tanania, he says here on his Twitter feed that his graphic guy went to bed. So, he did the thing. He made his own graphic for it. Smart guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, I've included a link for everybody. And if you're watching right now, you can see it up on the screen. Now, just to give it a quick once over, it'd be like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. He just went in there and paint and did his thing. The faces have moved just a little, and the backgrounds have changed just a little, and the lighting's changed just a little, and the colors are a little.
Yeah, but the faces don't even look the same.
No,
like they look like different people.
Kind of like somebody ran it through a filter. No. Because filters keep the same faces. No, he ran it through AI to get a red X and canceled put onto his banner because he doesn't know what MS Paint is, because he's never heard of GIMP. Well, actually, he probably knows a lot about GIMP, but different GIMP. Anyway. It's something. It's quite the intellectual. But yeah, he fully admits it here. So this guy, Matt Diamond, is like, kind of funny how the faces in the canceled image don't match the original one. Did you make the canceled version with AI? Yes. My graphic guy went to bed.
I was wondering
the prompt.
Like, I was wondering if Hanania is just always pretending to be retarded, but no, I think he is.
No, he does not pretend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He does not pretend at all.
It's the real deal.
Like, I don't know really much about the guy except that he looks like a literal demon. So, like,
yeah, he's stupid. He says dumb shit.
Yeah, but like,
I don't know why. I don't know why people even bother to listen to him.
It's kind of amazing.
Is it just for attention? I don't know.
It's gotta be. I don't see there's no real rational reason for someone to be that far up their own ass.
I mean, you kind of get it with David Hogg because he's young. But
yeah, well, he's not even really that young anymore.
Well, no.
He's young and stupid.
Yeah,
and that's a powerful combination.
Well, yeah, but then again, Hogg has been pretending for so long, he probably believes himself.
This guy got into Harvard because he was near a shooting. Kind of.
That he did.
After it happened.
Well, no, apparently he was at the school when it went down, completely on the other side of the building or something like that.
He was in as much danger as AOC during J6.
Less, but yeah. Because, as we all know, AOC was warned that people were coming for her. That was the plan. Apparently, the plan didn't exactly fall how it was supposed to, because not everything fell as it was supposed to. Anyway, that was a weird one. But anywho, moving past, there's no
Thunderdome.
The various weirdnesses with our government and cover-ups, because that's just not something we're going to do.
But we were talking about Hanania and his Hananianisms.
There's not really much more to discuss. There's apparently another person that was hired on for this too. This looks very much like the lady, but is actually a guy, and is also.
How can you tell?
Yeah,
that's my question.
The roundness is below the breast area, whereas on the this other one, it's from the breast up. So I think that's what it is. But the one that's supposed to be a dude doesn't wear makeup, I guess.
Man, that sounds really transphobic of him.
Could be. It could be. They've been having.
I suppose that's not really a new type of hypocrisy for that side of the aisle, is it?
Not particularly. It would not be the first time. So where do we go from here? We should probably talk about the video that'll be coming any day now. The one that doesn't exist. Because we were told that all the cameras, they all stopped working and everybody went Betty bye. That
Oh, you mean the video they found
The Epstein video.
as soon as AI got really good at making video?
yeah. Has everybody seen those new Google VO videos? I'll tell you, they're pretty impressive. Impressive
I'll
enough
say this as a
to be
short
interesting
aside.
things.
A very short aside. I absolutely hope that those videos take over the influencer industry and cripple it and destroy it. Because the videos are far fucking funnier and they do exactly the same fucking thing. I'm influencer X and I'm going to jump into a giant thing of lava. Fantastic. Please do that. I want to see copycats. I want to see someone in real life try to do that specifically because you advertised it like that.
Well, maybe Johnny Somali could find himself a new career in
Right.
trying to replicate AI videos.
Exactly that. I want to see the peak influencers. Johnny Somali crossover with Linus Tech Tips. Please describe the heat of the lava for us. Don't actually kill themselves, but lose a foot or something, or just encase it in rock.
And for
exactly.
Snapchats, how can you
and
say
for
no to
entertainment, exactly.
But so apparently just the other day we had Bongino. He come out and said, "Oh, hey, so we've got this video now that it actually shows that Epstein was alive."
Yeah, I want to see how many fingers he has and how frequently that number changes.
Yeah, me too. I'm real curious.
Hello, boys.
Oh, welcome back. Just discussing the newly uncovered Epstein video that will be completely legitimate and in no way questionable.
Please, see, here's the thing: is here's the question for you. Had the announcement not been made, would there be questions about the video when it comes out in the same way? What level of information would actually satisfy people that what they say is the truth is what would actually be the truth?
So I think you're going to run into. I think you're going to run into a couple different things. One, I suspect that I will probably be convinced because I wasn't entirely unconvinced before. I know that the Epstein didn't kill himself. It came out, but one of the things that I think we need to keep in mind is why were people skeptical of it, right? The guy was on suicide watch. He was in the prison. Why his life is over. Cernovich sat there and exposed everything. So why is it that people are surprised that he killed himself?
Well,
and the answer is not because
he was in the suicide ward.
Whatever. Right? Whatever it may be. Right? The answer to why people are skeptical of this is because it's not the first time that we heard essentially the similar story whenever something that was inconvenient to Democrats came out. Right? So, if you go back to the Obama presidency, we had the Lois Lerner emails. What did she do? 2 days after this whole entire thing erupts, oh my God, my computer, the hard drive has totally been corrupted. No data can be recovered. There's nothing for the congressional inquiry, right? When and she wasn't the only hard drive corruption issue there too. There was another one that came out a little bit later in the Obama administration that was again, all of the data all gone.
Darn those super strong maggots and their tendency to find our computers.
DC that just makes them incredibly fragile. I mean, you could be running a pizza joint and have one with all your records in the back, and somebody could just shoot a gun in the building, and it would destroy it.
And then we ran into the third case, and don't forget this is just this was what 2018, thereabouts. Can't remember whether it was 2018 or 2019.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Thereabouts. But this is only a year or two after the 2016 election. And let's remember the 2016 election where they turned around and Hillary Clinton said, "Oh yeah, we deleted the 30,000 emails. They were all of my yoga studio." And what later comes out is there's a Reddit post from an individual who's clearly managing her thing, who goes into detail about wiping the server and how they did it, and the date of the post in which they're seeking the information on how to delete everything on the server, that's being made. What was it? 3 days after Benghazi?
Yeah, Yeah,
right?
I believe so.
So like the Benghazi
we-
committee sat there and said, Hillary Clinton, please provide your emails, and within a couple days, all of a sudden it's, how do I get rid of and delete a server? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
funny that.
so when you turn around and you get into the Epstein thing, a prison case, we go in and they say, well, he was in the suicide ward. They were supposed to be doing hourly checks, but the guards just happened to fall asleep. And the camera that was on him, well, it just happened to disappear. Meanwhile, we've just had, essentially 8 years of Democrats. Whenever something comes to light, they will probably fuck them hard. Look, the data disappeared. And so I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people were skeptical. It's not that,
Sure.
it's not that Epstein killed himself or whether anybody's actually wagering on whether or not Epstein killed himself. They're wagering on the fact that not all the fucking information just suddenly exploded and disappeared. Like, what's the chance that happens?
Pretty high if you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point. That's exactly the point, right? That's exactly the point. And then on top of that, with this whole entire case thing, for years, not only through the Trump administration, but also all the way through the Biden administration, they have done everything in their power to bury every bit of detail of this case. So when you have the circumstances where everything else about this case is being suppressed, no one is being prosecuted, like it's a child trafficker who didn't traffic children to anyone as far as the government has been concerned.
What they've decided is that he's trafficked a lot of children to nobody.
To nobody, yeah. So you have that. Then you have all this suspicious stuff. So when they turn around and they say, did Epstein kill himself or not, is anybody sitting there and really evaluating whether or not Epstein was a suicide risk? No. They're saying all of the rest of this shit is bullshit.
Fair, actually, there
like, this is 100% bullshit. You cannot tell me that. That's why people are interested. It's not a public interest case because anybody gives a shit about Epstein or his death. It's a public interest case because the government has made a habit of lying and deleting records that are inconvenient to them, or Democrats in particular, since like 2010. And so it's at this point, it's been, they're getting to the point where it's 10 years. We can't get any records. We're not getting any prosecutions. We know that he was catering to the rich and powerful. We know some of the rich and powerful that were involved. And what do you know? It all disappears. That's what makes it a public interest case. So Steve, if they come up with this video, will I believe it? Yeah, I probably will. I don't think Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are lying to anybody. That being said, will it convince anyone? No.
Steve, I know I'm going to come off as a pedant, but and it's because this has been something that's been said frequently enough that it's a bit of a peeve. When you say since 2010, MK Ultra happened before 2010. You know what I mean? It's like the whole. It's not. I know it's not like just the government lying, but deleting records and et cetera, et cetera.
No, I know.
I'm just saying. Like, I get there's a modern aspect to it.
And
I'm going specifically in the line that is being fed to people, which is, yeah, there would have been documentation, but it magically didn't work that day. Right? Like, the technology failed. The technology that is in the government has suddenly failed as soon as there is a serious public inquiry into that record. And that is the common theme. Now, I'm not saying that they haven't buried stuff in the past. I'm not saying that there isn't other programs. Anybody who's been following the government for any period of time doesn't think that they're trustworthy. But it's the messaging. It is the messaging of that is, and when they make that message, when they come in and they say, "Oops, sorry, all of my emails are deleted, but don't worry." Right? Oops, sorry, the hard drive crashed twice. Oops, sorry, all of the. It's not that they turned around and sat there and hid information.
Right. So
hiding information would be one thing. It's the in your face. We had something. We would have given it to you, but go fuck yourself. Right? Like it is the
devil's advocate I was getting to. So
it's declarative. Like they've been declarative about their corruption, and I think that's really what the Epstein case is all about.
And that's with you giving a lot of benefit of the doubt. Let's be real.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But I think that realistically, like, why did it become a social meme that Epstein didn't kill himself? And I think the answer is because this is like the fourth or fifth time the fourth or fifth time that the government has said, well, oops, we had all of these data recorder systems, and it just happened to fail at a critical time.
Well,
right?
There's also the autopsy that shows that he was strangled by hands. But whatever.
I don't remember if that's what it actually showed, but
okay, the state
He
autopsy
died by
doesn't. The
strangulation.
state autopsy
Right.
shows that he died of miscellaneous strangulation. The secondary autopsy ordered by the family is much more thorough.
yeah, but I mean, the George Floyd autopsy ordered by the family,
Right.
the
state
coroner
autopsy is
came
quite
out.
clear, actually. If you wanna
The
read it.
George Floyd autopsy requested by the family, they came out and they said, oh, he was clearly killed by the cop. Oh yeah, we don't need to look at the fucking forensic results. So I'd be very cautious of the the family has has paid for a second autopsy, and therefore we should trust it implicitly.
Oh yeah, I mean
Right.
realistically, the body that they showed doesn't have all the same markers as the one, and then there's the image of the guy in the wheelchair being loaded into a helicopter.
Well,
late at
see,
night
this
in
is
New
the
York,
thing
so.
is, are these
So what do we know?
these are details, and details matter, but how much do they matter, and how much would we be focused on them if it wasn't for the giant fucking flare of "go fuck yourselves, you're not going to know anything" that was sent up when they said, "Oh, all the footage got deleted." Right? All the footage could have that literally could have been the circumstance, but because of all of the historical precedent, nobody believes it.
So you see, that's the interesting thing is
That's a
because
fair
it wasn't that
argument.
it was deleted. They
I
didn't
don't-
say it was
I
deleted.
don't
They said
agree,
that the
but that's a
video
fair
was
argument.
corrupted.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, no, that's important because that says video somehow exists, but that they're just not going to give it to you,
And let's lean into that actually.
which is just so much
let's
better.
say that there are files and that they are corrupt. How good are our systems really? I don't think they're going
That's
to
going
be
to be an
that
interesting
corrupt.
thing is because imagine now for sake of argument, just for sake of random argument here, imagine that they took corrupted video and they used AI enhancement to somehow unfuck it. It's not going to be possible for them to say AI wasn't involved.
Well, that's true.
Which is gonna make it so much fucking funnier if he really did just hang himself and it's on video, and they used AI to clean it up a little bit so that you could clearly see what was going on.
But
And it just happens come on, like that. You got to see how the full fucking irony of them going to extraordinary efforts to show the truth, and then because AI was involved in cleaning it up, they're suddenly the bad guys again.
Yeah,
But there's the one
again, to
problem
me,
here. The
I
cameras
think
were down.
I think it would have been easier for them to not release anything and just say, "Oh yeah, it doesn't." There's just nothing.
It was
else
the
for us to
camera.
tell you.
There was like 3 cameras outside the cell, and they said they had corrupted video and cameras were down.
But somehow,
And so that's non-specific.
Right, but from the current thing, right? Like it would be easy for them to just say nothing exists, regardless of whether they had it or not. If it was a giant conspiracy
Sure.
theory, it would be easier and probably career-wise safer for them to just pretend nothing was there. But they are giving us something, right? They're giving us footage that we haven't seen.
Or they're pretending to give us something.
I
wouldn't be the
suppose.
first time there.
I suppose, but I'm gonna put it as I think Bongino, and first off, I'm sure Cash is a straight shooter. Every time I've listened to him, he sounds like a straight shooter.
Well, I'm sure he believes what he's got is real. Sure.
Ah, I see. So you're going for the other layer of depth in this.
Well, to be real, we do know that those institutions are utterly infiltrated by people that hate this country, so it wouldn't be beyond reason for them to get bad intel.
I suppose that's true.
I
suppose that's true.
That
I
is
can
just the thing.
accept.
Well, the thing is,
accept
we don't
conspiracy
really know. We've got too many questions and not enough answers, and a system that basically refuses to give us any. And the few that they give us are shifty and not really very good.
I'll offer the following. And this is just an anecdote, and this isn't about this specific situation. So there was a cop who was a police chief on my street a while back, and I used to periodically stop and ask him something. And there'd be usually it was like a crime beat story. And so I asked him, his perspective on George Floyd. I asked him on his perspective on a lot of these other things that came up. But there was one story about a criminal that I was sitting there and I went up to him and I'm like, hey, so can you explain how this works? Because, like, the criminal did something incredibly stupid. And he basically turned around to me and he said, look, criminals are fucking dumb, man. Like, they're really fucking dumb.
They can be.
And
They can
The vast
and
majority.
the thing that you got to keep in, I'm like if they and I turned to him, I'm like, if I was to plan this myself and do this, I would do it in this way. And he turns to me and says, and you know what? If you did it that way, you probably wouldn't get caught. And I'm like, what do you mean I wouldn't get caught? He goes, look, and he reiterated, he said, look, I told you, criminals are dumb. They're really, 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 really fucking dumb. So all of the police force is geared at catching and maintaining and maintaining over a subset of really, really, really dumb people. If you have half of a brain, you won't get caught. Because if you applied half of a brain, you're already like way better than you're going to automatically make your case better than any other criminal. So when you turn around and you get stuff like this, we got to keep in mind that, like, we're not talking about a financier who's like, we're not when the Epstein
talking
case,
about Superman 3.
We're not talking about a random street thug who's henchman number 5 in a long line of criminals who aren't even master criminals. You know what I mean? We're dealing with people who we're dealing with a financier.
Oh, we're dealing with a close personal friend of Bill Gates.
Sure.
A former college professor.
True.
A former college professor. Sure.
Yeah.
All of these things are true. And that's what we're dealing with. And so we gotta also be kind of clear that part of the reason that it is possible that they have nothing on this
and also
guy.
there's the one other really kind of important thing that looms over this, about as heavy as, I don't know, gravity. That being that supposedly people of great international import are on these videos.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the videos
there is that.
The videos that the FBI already confiscated from the island, and I don't know where are they. I don't know. Nobody knows.
From New York, yeah.
Well, and that's going to be the
all
real
those
question,
CDs
right?
and
So,
was it from the compound? What was it, Arizona or whatever?
Yeah,
that too. Yeah,
yeah. Those, now, mind you, those don't exist. But
That were handed back after being copied.
Somehow, James O'Keefe gets word from somebody. Oh yeah, there's actually tens of thousands of videos. And then by the end of the day, Pam Bondi is kind enough to let us know that, hey, you're not going to believe this. We found tens of thousands of videos.
well, if I remember correctly, she sat there and released the documents, and then somebody turned around and like a whistleblower came out kind of right around the same time and said, yeah, they're actually located here. This is what you're looking for. So I'm not saying that there aren't people who are trying to prevent this from getting out. And by the way, this is not, traitors to the crown, so to speak, opponents of Donald Trump. There are going to be people who want the world order to be stable, and they're literally going to be looking at these terrible images and these terrible things that were done by terrible people and asking themselves whether or not the world is better served by not releasing it at all. That's a legitimate question.
The answer is actually no, but I do appreciate the arguments that these people can make.
I
appreciate that they have a bit of a conscious debate with themselves over it.
I will offer it. If I was in the FBI and I captured these videos and I found out that the president of the United States was fucking little kids or something like that in the videos, would I find it disgusting? Absolutely. Would I find it far more disadvantageous to all of my countrymen to release it? Also, yes. Right? And it would be a real hard decision at that point. From the outside, I can turn around and say, yeah, I would want that to be released, and I'd want to prosecute it. But, if it was the early 2000s, I'd be much more okay with it than I am today, with China being what it is.
Nah, I'm cool. China's fully evil, so I have no issue purging evil everywhere.
Well, that's the point. So, if the
Well, there's a
president
question
is
for you.
hampered, what's the
What was
major
the kind of
negative impact?
compromised? Well, those are kind of compromising information that might have been gained by China from Epstein.
Well, and that's the other thing too, right? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, speaking of compromises, let's say there really is something, and that Cash
Get rid of
and
the
Dan,
compromised
who
people.
have for all of time until they actually got in the place to do something about it, they've said there is a there. And now they say, no, there's nothing. We got a video for you coming out soon.
Because neither one of them
So-
had
well,
access.
no, bear with me. Let's say there's a bargain. What
See,
what
now
might they have gotten?
You're hypothecating.
You know, who
What
can
happens?
say? We
so,
don't
so
really
Evan,
know
let me ask you
anything
this:
is the
how
fucking
would you
thing.
handle it if you turn around? Let's say you got into Cash and Dan's position, and you got to see all of the evidence. Nothing was hidden, and you were absolutely positive nothing was hidden because you looked in all the dark little corners, right? You saw the raw images and the raw data, and you found out there was nothing there. How would you present it? What would you do?
How would you get credibility?
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean, it's like you're asking me to explain to people that, look, this guy's red. It's been red this whole time. You've just been seeing it wrong.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
You are.
saying that you're saying no.
In this
That's
case.
not it. It's saying that in this case, for this one specific instance, for this one thing, it turns out there wasn't anything. It looks suspicious as hell. There was a whole lot of smoke, but it turns out in this case there wasn't any fire. Like,
Well,
what do you do? Right? If you found that out, if you knew for a fact that there was nothing there, how do you present it in a way that you think would be believable? And that's the challenging. Like, if I was to turn around and war game this out, I would do basic. If I found out that there was nothing there and that I was wrong, this is basically what I'd do. I'd sit down, I'd go in for an interview. I would say, look, I've seen it. I've seen it, man, and as much I was on the other side. But the bottom line is, this is just what we have, right? And there's nothing else. Like it is a cohesive concept from start to finish. There aren't pieces out of line. I've looked, right? Like that's all you can do. And I know there's going to be a portion of people who are never going to believe it. But like, what do you do? How do you handle it?
Well, the only thing,
That's the
the
thing is
only
you just
way
gotta
that can work
accept
is
that
with
it's
radical transparency, and we're not going to get that.
Well, I think that's what they're doing, right?
They're
like,
not
I think
doing
that's
that.
kind
No,
That's what they're
there has
trying
not-
to do. right
All
now.
the files
Kind of.
that exist have not been. He hasn't been publicly on Twitter adding real Donald Trump saying, "Please, Donald, we need to release these. You need to unclassify these. America has to see this." I haven't seen that.
Well, so again, that's not where you're going to go on to. You're not going to be privy to those discussions because you're Evan,
Right.
the Catman, right? Like,
Right.
nobody,
So that's
nobody
why you
gives a
put it
shit
out.
about you, Evan.
Exactly.
Nobody
So
gives a
this
shit about
isn't
me.
Radical
Like, that's
transparency.
just the reality of the situation. So the conversation is going to be had at a much higher level and most of it's going to be on an email, and most of it's going to be a classified email, and most of this is going to be happening within a skiff, right? Declassification,
And
it
that
would be
is the
really hard for
opposite
me to
of
turn around and
transparency.
say that the president of the United States has an authority or rational reason to declassify child rape videos and just send them out to the world.
No, that's
That
not
would be
what
a
I meant.
real hard.
That's not what I meant,
I
actually.
would
I meant
not
the,
want
I
to.
meant
That would be
the
an
files
interesting-
related to the
doing that.
investigation, but you know.
That would be an incredibly interesting way to leave his last term, wouldn't it?
It would, but like,
That's, hey guys, child porn.
would you want that? Like, if you were the
Oh
kid
my
getting
God.
raped, I like, what would you do? I don't want to see that.
I mean,
I don't
what I
wanna
think
see
I would
that,
probably do
What I want to
is
see, what I want to see is persecutions, right? I want to see prosecutions and persecution.
I'd probably go down the road of declassifying like a screenshot of file names that were descriptive. Not like
yeah, but
grotesquely descriptive, but
so
like
here's the
descriptive
problem,
enough.
right? Let's say I have a descriptive file name. Is that how those files are stored?
No,
Right. So,
I mean,
so
That's
if
a lot
those
easier
files are
than,
being
I
stored
mean,
as like, you know, what's
I get what you're saying.
Prince Andrew bangs hot chick, right? Like, or whatever the fuck it is.
Okay,
if
like
it's not
well, you
stored
see, you don't
like
need
a
like
file name, right? Debbie does Dallas, Debbie does the Dallas Cowboys or whatever the fuck it is, right? If it's not stored like that, then that would be
Well, you don't
altering
need a-
evidence, wouldn't it?
You don't need that as a frame by frame, but imagine, for instance, you might say it wouldn't be totally unreasonable to have documented summaries of what was observed in the video by the people who
Well,
were doing the investigation.
Yeah, but again, you're still going to be now. You're
They're not
going
going to give you some pornographic.
What if they are going for prosecution? Which is what
But
I'd rather
here's
see.
the thing. Again, what you're not going to get is out of that is you're not going to get some like porn site description of what goes on inside the video. You're going to get some dry government level,
Hey.
top level view of what happened inside the video, and that
I get it,
that
but
I think is going to be sufficient enough for them
At the same
to
time, if the government
be
is
transparent about
legitimately
it.
building a case, which they've
But
said
again,
they're
if we're
doing,
being on, but you've now pivoted to case building from transparency, which is what I was getting at.
no.
I agree on case building. I think that they should be going after these fuckers.
So
I think
that's
transporting
the question, right?
kids to nobody is bullshit.
The question is, what does radical transparency have, and what is your ultimate goal? If my choice is radical transparency or prosecution, I will choose prosecution. And if I choose prosecution, that means I won't see shit.
See,
right?
the thing
That's
about
the
it is,
reality.
in my
That's going
case,
to be for
I
the
honestly,
jury.
I
That's going to
don't
be for
care
the grand jury, and that's going to
how
be for the
justice is
indictments.
delivered. I don't care. I do not care. I want it done.
I think the transparency part of it is
And
in
if it's
lieu of.
transparent, it's going to be real easy for justice to be done.
No,
Yes.
that's not true.
Yes.
Actually, that is exactly contrary to.
Well, then they
In
can
fact, you
live
will
in
get
their
zero
bunkers
justice.
underground and never come out because they're too afraid. That's
That-
fine also.
That will poison the jury pool.
That will
completely.
poison the jury pool. You cannot do that.
I'm not talking about juries, and you know that full and
See,
well.
that's the thing is, I would much rather see these people go to jail.
I don't
to turn
care.
around.
I want justice done.
Well, see, that's the thing is, I agree with you. But what justice do you want? Do you want these people to sit there and roam free? Like, what do you think? There's going
I
to
don't
be a
think that
roving
he's
mob
suggesting
that's
that's a
going to
possibility.
overcome Bill Gates'
That is
personal
most certainly
security?
not a possibility if justice, by my reckoning, is done.
So jury trials take time, cases take time.
Yeah, and that takes
Again,
too long.
they just got in, bro. They've
just,
got 5 months. They've got
Bro.
5 months. They didn't even get a hold of the files until March. So they've had like 2 months with this shit.
so,
they have to
so
build
that's
a
2
case.
months that we could put all
They
that
have to
data
identify
out
the
there and let the
individual.
problem
They have to
get
build the
resolved
case.
on its
They
own.
have to prove
So-
it.
so
Then they have to
Evan,
sit there and
Evan.
get the grand
Yeah.
jury together. Like
Evan, let's
you're talking
consider
about
that they have how much data do they have to go through? Say for one case. Say they got one case they're going to build out of this. Say they're going to relitigate Epstein. Just for starters, as for the big fish in the pond.
Okay.
What is the level of detail they're going to have to go into on the data set of what kind of size here before they're able to go to a grand jury and say, look, we have a case, we're done building it. Because you can't just go to the grand jury and say, I have evidence in a case,
Well,
but I'm not done with it
that's
yet,
not going to be much
and I
of a
want you
case
to get
at
them
all.
anyway.
But are you
like that.
Okay. Let's say Prince Andrew, or pick a name, pick a big name that you think is on the list. Doesn't matter.
So one,
They're going to have to build it. They're going to have to pull from that pool of data all the evidence in an organized fashion to present it to a
well,
grand
you know
jury.
what?
case, they're not going to have to pull all the evidence. They're going to have to pull adequate evidence to present a case.
Right, but keep in mind that
All
the
the evidence they're gonna
evidence
show.
that they're going to be pulling is security camera footage from multiple cameras in multiple locations on the private island. And I bet you all of that shit was backed up. Right? So you're going to have to sit there and you're going to have to build a sequence of events which sits there and ties them to engaging in sexual activity. And you're assuming that the sexual activity it was actually filmed rather than a whole bunch of other stuff around it.
Well, luckily, we know actually that it was, and that because of Jeffrey Epstein's nature, he kept meticulous records. Yes,
we have video footage of that.
We have FBI testimony thereof. Yes, we have testimony of the agents that were doing the investigating and in the raid that these were labeled and properly organized. Collated,
but
everything.
It doesn't mean that's what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have.
Which would be
right?
even more
the fact
interesting.
The fact that somebody saw it at some time and then reported anonymously that it exists is not the same thing as the individuals who are building a case have access to that information organized in that format.
Well, then
right? We're so far. Like, I agree with you that I want to see justice. And again, if they get through all of Trump's term, and there hasn't been a single prosecution case built against anyone, I'm going to sit there and be like, yeah, this was a fucking waste of my time. But, when we're talking about the guy doesn't come in, Trump doesn't get into power until January 21st. He doesn't get anybody really confirmed until like mid-February, much less March.
Oh, we're still waiting.
They have a ton of fucking shit they have a lot of shit that they have to do. And there's some prioritization, and there's only a limited amount of time. And then on top of that, you have an entire apparatus which is geared against preventing them from seeing this information. Right? Like, what is the fire that you want to put out first? Because the whole fucking thing's on fire. Like, I get what you're saying. You want to see justice for these people. I do too. But
I didn't necessarily. Well, justice isn't necessarily the word I would use, but yeah.
Whatever
I'll
it
say
is.
This. Going back to what's her name? Saying I had the files on my desk.
Oh, Bonnie.
And then finding out the folder's fucking empty. That was and then handing out binders to a bunch of influencers that just so happened to walk past the camera. Like,
and all those
Pam Bondi should have been fucking fired for that.
All those binders had the stuff that was already known anyway, and it was redacted.
It wasn't just that. Exactly. It wasn't just that was already known and published. It was that they chose to redact shit from stuff that was already public.
Yeah, on top. Yeah.
That was all it showed.
Oh, completely.
I get that some of that was done as cover your ass. Some of that was done as CYA because it had victim information in there.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I can understand that, but that stuff's already public. But like it was just stupid theater, and everyone saw through it.
It absolutely
instantly.
Was, right? Like, it absolutely was. That's not Pam Bondi should have been fired.
It was inexcusable. Yeah.
Like, that's not even. I'm 100% with you there, man. Like, again, going to like part of the problem that you have right now, and we saw this in the first Trump administration. They're trying to move fast to the point of committing errors. And the difficulty you have is how much of it is the difficulty you have, how do you predict where this is going to end up when it's entirely reliant on information that you don't have access to?
Well, here to your point and to your argument, what happens if in the pursuit of justice and going at breakneck speed, they fuck up and they end up giving someone double jeopardy immunity?
Correct. Right, like, and that's the thing. I get what Evan's saying, right? He wants put the name out there, and we'll tar and feather them out of society. However, the government's not allowed to do that.
Exactly.
Right, you're just not allowed to
make this stuff public so that everyone knows and can deal with it.
And then the individuals who are involved will have a defamation case against the federal government. They will, and they'll win, not because it's fair or right or they didn't do the thing or whatever the fuck it is. They will legitimately win millions or even billions of dollars if the federal government does that. Not because it's wrong, but because it's prejudicial, and the government's not allowed to do that.
Well,
so what do you want?
My solution avoids all these problems, but it's not for everyone. So, whatever.
I mean, pedos get the bullet. I'm all for that.
So I have a question for you then, Evan.
Yeah.
Would you be the one holding the gun?
Well,
and if not you, then who would you assume would hold the gun to go after these people and do street justice on them?
Well, I mean, whoever's nearest, I guess, really, reasonably.
So what I'm basically asking here is, who would you condemn with the responsibility of not only taking their lives, but then serving the time afterwards? A hero's reward in prison, sure, but still, who would you assume would be the one to take that honorable role?
Well, when you're dealing with problems at mass, I can't really.
There isn't a diffusion of responsibility on this.
I can't really get into any more specifics than this because we publish this. So okay. I have answers, and I'm uncomfortable giving them on the air because I actually do have answers. So let's just because
I will table that discussion then already.
There are answers to these questions, but we publish, so we'll let people figure these things out on their own. I would advise everyone to live their life in a very legal and upstanding fashion.
I mean, I'm not trying to put you at a point of self-incriminating here. I was getting to the moral depth of that.
Do anything like that, but I wouldn't want anyone else to say that they would either.
Plumbing the moral depths of the question is all.
I'll stick with just as a case in point. What is it? Not Boasberg. What's that? Was it Judge Brennan, the one who escorted the illegal immigrant?
Right.
Yeah.
So
the
had
lady out of Minnesota.
we had 3 people in there to do a specific thing with warrants and judges within a courthouse that was all legally recorded. It is extremely blatant. There is no ambiguity, and there is nothing to hide. All right, and that still has taken, it took a month before they got to the grand jury with her.
Well, you've still got people absolutely defending her despite every single aspect of that act.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they're defending her on what they consider the merits.
Oh no, defending the original narrative, not even the merits.
Oh really?
Like, oh yeah, no, she was just walking him out because they were done.
Oh
yeah, there's still people on that.
People defending that.
Astoundingly,
I saw people switching to what she did was an act of heroism against fucking Nazi occupier and shit like that. I saw that stuff.
Yeah. Nonsense. But I mean, at least they've changed it. At least they're going with something now.
Sure.
As opposed to the old debunked narrative, but whatever.
But I think that.
Well, let's go with law-abiding citizen. It's not what you can prove outside of court. It's what you can prove in the court, right? It's not about right and wrong. It's about getting justice, as you said.
I think that should be held as the standard for time frames for justice. Right? That was pretty cut and clear. It's relatively recent. They had agents on scene who are planning to make an arrest anyways. And it still took a month to get to the grand jury, and it's going to be another 6 to 9 months before there's an actual real hearing on it. And now you want to sit there and talk about a much more complicated case where we kind of have
actually let's dial this back actually to something really related to just kind of this whole everything. Why wasn't Jim Comey perp walked at 3 a.m. from his house for crimes equivalent roughly to Roger Stone's? It could have been done. It wouldn't have been any more difficult than it was, doing it to Roger Stone. They could have called up some folks at Fox News like, hey, Fox News guys, something cool's going to happen outside Jim Comey's house. You should be there.
I agree that they could have done that, but that's not really as much of a recent thing.
It was a very recent
thing. They've already the previous decision where Comey's what is it, contempt of Congress or whatever the fuck it is.
No, I'm talking about his tweet about killing the president. He was taken in. He was questioned.
So again, his argument was that, and this is, I disagree. I think it's bullshit. But his argument was essentially, he didn't know.
Sure. But all that aside,
he didn't know anything. He's not known stuff for a long time.
He was asked to come in and came in. They didn't have to do it that way. They could have made a show of it, like was a show made of every little thing that anybody on the right did.
They could have, but again, right, the right is a more upstanding group of individuals than the left. So your argument is essentially that, I understand what you're saying, but
the rules of engagement have been set. It's just that some people refuse to play by the rules.
No, I mean, I think that we need to simultaneously. So while I think we need to prosecute the left for their crimes, I think we also need to,
instead of repeating them,
we need to do it in a way that is morally upstanding, right?
The thing about it is, what I'm saying in this specific case, that would be the moral thing to do. Because
no, I disagree. It wasn't moral when they did it to Trump, or none of the theater that the left has engaged in was moral in any way, shape, or form. yes, they set the standard, but I also don't think that that's what should be done. Right? Like, I don't think that the right should be gaming the criminal justice system for political theater. I think that's morally reprehensible.
Well, it's
I
not. The thing
understand
is,
that the
that's
left
not
does it.
gaming. He made what could be considered a legitimate threat. There is no issue in taking him in for questioning. The manner in which that is done is the choice that was
Right,
made.
I understand, but the
and
manner in which it's done, like, that's the question, man. Like, whether
so
or
why
not
not
we
Well,
tell
should
these
be,
people
let's
that
just
what they've
repeat pop
done
culture
is
here. Manner
not
makes
why
it
should we
appropriate.
be doing what the left is doing? Just because the
Especially if it's
left did
immoral.
it doesn't mean we should do it. It was immoral when the left did it, and it would be immoral if the right did it.
But the morals of today don't exist in that way.
No,
So it's
the left.
it's neither moral nor immoral. It's
Again,
merely
I
a
want to
tool.
see. I'm
A
gonna be
hammer
very
isn't
clear
moral.
here. The left sat there and engaged in a whole bunch of prosecutorial political theater,
Mm,
right?
Sure. And I'm not saying that he needs to have any charges brought against him that aren't there. He just needs to be brought in the same way so that it is understood that you will be handled roughly as the system allows inside of its bounds. If this message
I
is sent to
disagree
people,
because I think that was
then
political targeting, and we can't make a case for political targeting if we engage in political targeting. Like, we can't make the argument that these people did something wrong if we go do it.
Roger
Like, we
Stone
absolutely, the
at
people
no
who politically
time
targeted
made a
them,
threat
the people who targeted
against
Roger
any
Stone,
president.
we should absolutely be engaged in the people who did that. We should be sitting there and prosecuting these people. We should be going to the full extent of the law, but we don't need to engage in the theater. I don't want to see the theater. The theater does not amuse me. I
Nor
don't
does it
get
amuse
Well,
me.
let's
great
see. We
satisfaction.
just talked about the binders, right?
Yeah,
That's the kind of theater I'm kind of done with.
yeah. Like, I'm sick of that shit. I don't want to see. So I think that we need to. The problem that we have is the left went crazy. Like, they went fucking nuts. And so how do you deal with the fact that they went fucking nuts? Well, one, we could do what they did, which is do public perp walks and humiliation walks and do lawfare. But I don't think
Well,
that
it's
that's
ritualistic for the left.
it's
Keep in
ritualistic
mind,
for the left. I agree. Like, but I don't think that's something that we should be doing. Like, I don't think that that is something that benefits us societally.
that's kind of the point.
Like
As there really isn't a benefit.
They
Well,
did
there is,
so
though.
much damage to social cohesion that, like, it, we cannot sit there on a high horse and say we're going to go after the political targeting of political opponents, and we're going to arrest these people for what they did, which we should do, right? Adam Schiff should go to jail for sedition.
Yeah.
However, we can't throw Adam Schiff in jail for sedition if we start sitting there and engaged in these games that the left did. Right? The best thing right now is Jake Tapper's whatever tour.
Hey guys.
Hey guys, the
I was totally not a shill, guys. I wrote a book about it. Yeah.
Right. That is the greatest thing. Why? Because they immediately on the tour attempted to start critiquing President Trump's mental fitness, which they did during Trump's first term, and they didn't do during Biden's second term. And it is fantastic that we don't we don't sit there and engage in those kinds of duality of it's okay for me when I do it. Right? This is like the left has tried numerous times to make the argument of it's okay that the right does a it's okay when I do it type argument, but that is the left's like playing card. And they have to go through some real tortured logic to get to the point
I
where
was gonna say
it's
the
okay when
whole
right does it.
advantage you have of being in the left is that you don't have to use logic.
Right, exactly. So we should
You're
be
not bound by it.
like if we want to restore and I don't want to burn the whole country to the ground. Right? I don't want to start a revolution. I don't want to see everything get set to zero. I think we got a pretty good system. I just think we need to correct it a little bit, right? I think that we need to come in here and the left has gone completely, they've been completely uncontrolled for a very long period of time. We just kind of said, oh, well, I understand that you're protesting when Antifa's going out and smashing people in the face. That shit has to end. and that means that we need to prosecute them for the crimes that they commit. But that doesn't mean that we need to sit there and make a show of it, right? The proper tone and tenor is not to sit there and do perp walks. The proper tone and tenor is to turn around and have this be like a begrudging thing that they've forced us to do by being so blatantly obvious about it.
That's the thing. This is something that we grudgingly need to do because they have been so obvious about it. I'm not saying that we go after every single Democrat
Yeah, but we
J6
don't
style.
have to
I'm
do that,
saying
do we?
that these individuals that have done obviously actionable things need to be acted against harshly.
But they
So
did.
that-
They visited Comey.
No, I said acted against harshly.
But at the same time, that's no, like, the fundamental consequences are the legal investigation, right? How we
To the
execute
individual,
it,
yes.
how we execute it is theater. So if
Right.
we just do it as part of a normal part of our investigation, that is what it should be.
Right.
If we
So we
started
need to
doing
perform the theater
perp
as
walk
part
at
of our
3 a.m.
investigation.
and dragging them out of their house like the left did, right? That's theater.
Okay,
Right.
okay. Let me
Right,
go
and
ahead
you
and let
perform
me flip the
theater
baby here.
so that the
Evan,
population
Evan.
understands how things are being handled. And
Evan,
doesn't have
Evan,
questions.
let me split the baby in a way that's not going to kill it.
All right.
What if the court issued a summons saying basically you belong in jail, come voluntarily, and then they don't show up? Then you go and get them with all the
Well,
people
see,
at
that's
their house
fine
tonight.
too, but we didn't get that. All we got is like, hey, Jim, we'd really like it if you could come down and talk to us on Friday. That'd be real cool, buddy. Thanks.
And he did.
Oh, who gives a
And
shit
he
about
did, yes, and they could have done the same fucking thing with Roger Stone.
Yeah, they could have, but the left was in charge then. We aren't the left.
Right. So we need to show them that these tools still exist and that they can be used and use them appropriately. One or two here and there in some high profile cases so that, oh, right, that's right, we don't like that. Because when you use these tools, they get reined in. That's why I wanted Trump to act
But that's
severely
not
near
a
the end of
not a
things
tool,
to use the
right?
tools
Like,
that
that's
he
the
had
thing
at his disposal.
is if so Evan, I think the problem that you have is that I understand what you want. You want revenge, right? But
No,
this is not a tool.
no, it's not that I want
Dragging
revenge.
somebody out of their house is not a tool.
It's what is
That's
a
a
tool.
means. That's a method of doing something. The tool is the summons. They didn't have to drag him out of his house.
No, it's a tool
Right?
for a different end, is the thing.
I disagree with the use of that tool.
Well,
And I
you
disagree with
can,
the
I
use of
guess.
that end.
That's fine.
We
And
shouldn't
it's
be
not about
engaged in
revenge. It's
political
not about
terrorism.
revenge at all. It's about sending a message that needs
Right,
to
which
be
would
sent.
that would be revenge. Like,
no.
you're saying that we should do it because this was done to me. And this is going to send a message to those people. That's
No.
fucking revenge, dude.
No, I'm not.
Like, you're not turning around and making the argument that this is a course of government. You're taking the course that you're going to send a political statement to my political enemies. That's fucking revenge.
Okay. Well, now that you're done.
See you in the chat there, Bets. What's up?
So anyway, what I am trying to send a message with, since that's not it at all, is that this is not an acceptable way to handle things. These tools are far too powerful and shouldn't exist. So we're going to show them to everyone. We're going to show you this ugly face of the government so that you say, you can't do that anymore. This is what I wanted Donald Trump to do. He had tools at his disposal, some of which have been destroyed, thankfully. But he had tools at his disposal in 2020 that he refused to use. Had he used them, he probably would have been, still in charge. But he didn't. And those tools still exist. And they still need to be destroyed. So this would be an excellent opportunity. We could put this out here, show some of this ugly stuff to people that deserves it. And then they'll say, oh, well, that's a little ugly. We don't want that anymore. Well, I kind of don't want it either. And then we can all have the discussion about, well, maybe we shouldn't allow them to do this for these sort of things. Right? Or do we just want to leave it lay?
So I think that what you're talking about is theater.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I hear what you're saying. You're saying you want to make a point.
Yes.
Right? You're not arguing that this is the means and methods by which we can do this. You're arguing that you want to make a point. And that's I get it. I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that's the way we should be doing it. Right? The government should not be engaged in that behavior. I agree with you. The government did that behavior, and I also believe that those people who did that should be punished severely.
Sure.
But that
Well,
doesn't
remember,
mean
But
that
what
I
better
think
way
that.
to do
But
that
as
than
part of
forcing
that
people
punishment,
to
as part of
to
that
face that?
severe punishment, it shouldn't be eye for an eye. Right? We don't.
So,
We shouldn't
Evan,
be going engaged in eye for an eye. We should punish them when they commit a crime. We should punish them to the
Evan,
maximum extent of the law. But we should not be engaged in like Fader that just sits there and sends them. We shouldn't be trying to send a
so
message.
why would you repeat the mistake that they made and hand them the argument the next time that they can just say, well, you guys did it? Now, remember, you're dealing with people who don't have the capacity, let alone the compunction to use logic. All they're going to do is say, well, you guys did it, so we can do it again. Which is
Well,
basically the argument you have behind making the point that it was wrong in the first place, which I get. But
Yeah, no,
like,
and
why hand them that ammo? Because that's going to be how they justify doing it again and normalizing it.
because it's already happened and it's already been normalized. That's just the way
Again,
that things are now. You can say I'm
normalization
not going
requires
to use the
perpetuation.
tools that exist currently. I refuse to use these tools.
Normalization requires perpetuation.
Which we have seen. So that is kind of
Sure.
how it is now.
And so far we have not been obtuse enough to fall into that trap.
Well, the thing about it is the tools still exist. It can still happen, and it will happen if they
Yeah.
come back into power. They
yeah,
will do it
but
again.
what are we going to turn around and do and say, hey, we're not going to sit there and be allowed anybody to do raids at 3 o'clock in the morning? Of course not. That's not what we want. We want the police to be able to go and raid people at 3 o'clock in the morning. We definitely want to have drug dealers caught, not downtown while they're fully fucking armed. We want them to be caught with their pants down while they're asleep or fucking their girlfriend.
So
That's the time
they
to get
would
them.
go to a judge for that, right? And
Right.
go through.
But we also know that they
standard
won't go
procedures.
to a judge for that.
Right.
Right?
So
Like-
then I would rather that drug dealer, not get raided than them not go to a judge.
I would disagree. I want the threats taken off the street.
I would very much like
Yeah,
that.
I don't think in the case of Roger Stone he was a threat. I don't think it should have been done. But there are threats, so we do want those police powers. We don't want the government to be like, "Yep, the police can only raid you between 9 and 5." Right? After several strongly worded orders.
After donuts and coffee, yeah.
Right, like after we're only gonna, the shift starts at 9. All
And look, if
criminal
you're on
activity-
break, they can't get you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Between the hours of between 5:30 and 8:30 in the morning, you don't have to worry about the cops coming in your door. That's a terrible fucking statement.
I mean, I think it'd be hilarious to publish that. And then just do
really
it
funny
anyway.
to publish that. Like, and you just certainly don't want it to be, well, we could do it after we've sent some strongly worded letters and you didn't respond. Like some people,
Hans
are a
Bricks.
threat and they need to get taken out. Do I think Roger Stone was that threat? No. Does that mean that I want the tool? So was the tool abused? Yes. Does that mean we put away the tool? No. It means we sit there and put away the abusers.
Steve,
no. Hold on. Let me
Listen,
address
Hans
that.
Bricks, this
give
Redder
me-
was
give me
very
1 second
annoying.
to address that specific point, though. Do we want to put away that tool for people that have not committed any sort of violent crime that are not a danger? Yes, we actually do want to put that tool away and never, ever use it for someone that is not a violent criminal.
Sure, but how do you do that while making it available for violent criminals?
You don't do it for non-violent criminals. You have a judge that
Right,
says,
but
"No, what the
so
fuck
now
are you
now
doing?"
you're talking about this theoretical case.
Or
Right, again,
I'm talking about
this
an
is
actual
not
case
how
that
they
actually
handled
happened
Comey.
and should have happened again, so that we
How-
have to keep
how-
asking this
No, it
question
shouldn't have
until
happened. Again,
it
shouldn't
doesn't
have happened.
happen
You
ever
agree.
again.
You have literally just said that you agree it shouldn't have happened. So the problem was not what they did with Comey. The problem was what they did with Roger Stone. The people who executed the rage on Roger
And
Stone
that fucking Clinton
should probably
aide,
be
and
investigated.
however many other fucking people,
for
because this
abuse
keeps
of
happening
power.
over and over again, and it needs to keep happening until it stops happening.
I
Because we're
disagree.
we're obviously not going to be able to stop it as it is. So,
Oh, I disagree with that. Like, right now, the left is getting thrown in jail because they've done stupid fucking shit. Like, we aren't playing those games anymore where we're like, yeah, you basically get off, you can go engage in criminal activity and won't be punished. I think that's a very strong first step. I think that's a really strong first step. And to be honest, I suspect a lot of the system will become self-correcting, right? Because the bad actors are going to realize that there can be consequences. Like, this is the problem that you have, is the Republicans previously have done nothing, right? The left sits there and burns down a city. They cause $29 billion in damage. They kill 29 people or whatever the fuck it is. Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
True.
Right? Like, nothing happens is the theme of half a dozen conservative talk shows. So I think that we have switched that argument to, you know, when you decide to go assault cops, you know, what was it? I think they were looking at the congressperson there, who assaulted an
Right.
ICE officer.
Okay, yeah. You know what? To be fair,
Like,
I
all
have
of those
seen
things are
arrests of
going to
people
change,
I've
and I
never
think
seen arrested in
that
my
if you
life.
just make that change, if you just prosecute people normally, using normal context and normal behaviors and actual criminality, and you enforce the fucking law, that I think a lot of that crazy shit will go away. Why? Because now all of a sudden there are consequences for those behaviors. And so all it takes, like, it is very easy to make an argument for police brutality and police abuse. And really, like, Roger Stone should be making the argument that the raid that was done on his house was excessive and not necessary. We make these cases all the time. They're absolutely civil fines. And we should, as part of the civil fine stuff, start going after the officers involved in the raid, because it is there as enforcers of the law. They should understand when they are operating outside of it, right? So I'm 100% okay with sitting there and saying that we need to provide Roger Stone with civil recompense for the situation that was enforced upon him. I think that Bannon needs to have
Also a good example.
some,
Yeah, sure.
right? Bannon needs to probably be compensated for his jail time.
Or we make it so that these things can't be done to anyone else.
I disagree. Like, I don't think so. The problem that you have is not going to be
not
this
anyone
is
else.
we cannot turn around. Like, the left does this all the time, where they're like, hey, did you imagine this fringe use case? That this is not the normal case. What was done was abnormal, and the abnormal use of that tool should be punished, right? Not only should the people who did it get punished, but the people who were punished by it should get recompense. 100% I'm in that boat there.
Well, think about it this way. What if I did that? I wouldn't have gotten Comey's treatment.
Well, and that's a separate argument. And I do agree with that.
That's the exact same argument. That's the argument that
But
I'm
actually,
making.
no, I don't know if that's true, because there's a whole bunch of people who made that specific type of statement. Right? The question, the difficulty you have here is that the left has been fucking crazy for a while. They were really nuts.
You might be right. I'll give you that, actually.
Like the left is the ones who are sitting there and going way off the rails in terms of their persecuting political prisoners or political opponents and all the rest of that stuff. So like,
well, let's just look at what they did to Elon, right?
Elon, yeah,
still are doing.
So like,
do
I think?
Yes.
Do I think that you would have been treated differently than Comey for posting that? I don't know.
I got a feeling.
Well, let's look at a relevant example.
During the Biden administration, I don't know if you would have during the Obama administration.
Let's look at a relevant example. That's slightly it's adjacent, but not so far that it is outside the wheelhouse. FJB and LG was it Let's Go Brandon? So LGB, FJB, that whole thing. Like, the Brandon thing obviously had an innocuous start from it.
It was just kind of funny.
Fuck Joe Biden. Now here's again the thing is that especially if you're younger, 86 is largely going to be in the context of a bar where you get thrown out. Like, that's the 86 getting 86 from a bar means getting tossed the fuck out.
You are the first person that has ever told me that ever.
I've always seen it as like to kill somebody.
I've never heard that ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we're talking about two different generations here, right?
Look,
because that's
old as
like a
dirt.
very common thing.
I only know it
the
as
older
killing.
generations, like where I was when I first saw 8645, and I did see a bunch of 8645 stickers.
Yeah. That to me said throw him out. Like basically the same shit they're doing on Peach 45, all that shit.
I
8647
responded to
just said
the
the same thing to me.
8645
Yeah, no.
saying, "How the fuck is it that this individual is calling for presidential assassination?"
Right?
And like I think the younger generation see it as being removed from.
Yeah, I've never heard that usage of the term ever until you just now told me.
That's wild. Maybe it's a Florida thing. I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
it's a Gainesville thing.
It could be a regional thing, but
Because that's something that that's something my
Maybe
parents
that's why
told
he
me.
found
My
it on
older
the
brother
beach.
knew
Maybe it was
about.
just like he was on a beach where it's a regional thing. Yeah, there we go. There it is. He
Oh,
was just in the
fuck
region.
that noise. You see, when you're talking about
No,
Comey, the thing is,
Comey's
I
case,
absolutely
I think
expect him to speak and double speak. Absolutely expect that shit.
I absolutely do not believe that Comey did not know what that meant.
I only
Right.
expect Comey to speak out of the side of his mouth. Let's be real.
Frankly.
I'm 100% in the like Comey knew exactly what he was doing, and was he thought he was being
I
fucking
found
coy.
some pebbles on the beach, guys.
Yeah.
Look at these shells. I'm selling them down by the seashore. Sure, Jim. Fucking sure.
So I think Comey knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. I don't think for even a minute that I don't buy his I had no idea that that's what that meant story. He's the fucking head of
Former
the FBI.
CIA.
He knows
FBI,
every
whatever, yeah.
version of every form of slang, or should reasonably.
Yeah.
Well, he's also the guy who couldn't believe that Loretta Lynch was talking to Bill Clinton. Let's be honest here.
I guess it's true.
The guy's a retard and an asshole.
I don't know if he's a retard.
Oh, hey, yeah,
He's retarded if he thought people wouldn't be able to call him out on his shit.
We've gone way deep into this topic, and we should probably move on a little bit. And retard is the perfect stepping off point because guess what, boys? Guess what? Retards are back. It's in the lexicon. It's cool. You can just say retarded again.
I used it quite a bit this week.
Yeah, it's
I don't think I ever noticed that it wasn't.
Well,
I never noticed that it wasn't.
Well, they were trying to do the whole R word.
They're trying to whole R word. I remember the R word thing. That's been like a decades-long thing, though.
But
it's always been among the polite circles. Oh, it's the R word. It's like, yeah, that's retarded.
Mm-hmm. Well,
even lefties are using it now.
Yep. It's done.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's done. Cooked, as you might say.
Next is faggot.
Yeah.
Faggot hasn't left my lexicon either.
Yeah.
We gotta normalize faggotry. Why doesn't the left want to normalize faggotry? I thought they did, right? I thought they want faggots to be everywhere.
I call my dog that all the time.
Remember, it used to be that being called a retarded faggot was kind of a thing you didn't want as a kid. Whereas nowadays, if you call someone that, they feel so seen.
Yeah, it's like
thank you.
Yeah, you're part of the in group. I mean, you don't.
You just have to say it correctly.
Words.
That's all.
Yeah, it's just what's tomato. What is it? You're a mentally disabled trans person, or
sorry, neurodivergent, right?
601 half.
Neurodivergent alphabet person, yes.
Yeah, there went the new viewer. Everybody, make sure to subscribe, like, and share with everyone because this show is growing.
It's run by retarded faggots, We just don't have them on because they can't speak normal.
The best men, top men.
I suppose. I mean, I'm pretty sure Craig's a bottom.
Oh my!
That's not even in the gutter.
I mean, I don't know. I was in your mom's gutter last night.
Speaking of bottoms, this is another interesting update out of the world of boxing. They're going to now be doing mandatory sex testing for all boxers that want to be competing in.
Oh yeah, because Imani, whatever his name is, Imani Khalif.
Yeah, because that dude that basically everybody knew was a dude with some unfortunate birth
with dude parts.
Yeah.
They need to be doing that to the WNBA too.
There is talk
Oh
of
man,
such
could
things.
you imagine if Miss Reese went and got tested?
He's clearly a dude.
Oh, that would...
I mean, just look at him.
Yeah,
Who?
Oh no, not the one we traded the
Merchant of Death. Yeah.
Merchant of Death for.
Yeah,
No,
you know.
no, not Grinner, not Grinner. The Reese lady, the one who's
the
constantly
white
calling
eyes?
what's her name a white bitch. Yeah, the one with the fish face. Yes,
Oh yeah, her. Oh well.
the one with flounder face.
Yeah, no, I would imagine she's a woman. She's probably just running real super high on test. And what's that other thing? What are they? Fetal alcohol syndrome. But anyway.
Yeah, the wide nose at the bridge.
I'm actually not really.
That is classic FAS. That plus emotional immaturity and ability to do a lot of simple tasks as far as thought.
Yeah, it really.
Kind of classic.
Yeah. Okay, so serious note time. There's we just okay. Yeah, I guess we've been serious this whole time. Okay, so somber note time. There's a video floating around out of Ukraine just a few days ago. Russian soldiers basically surrendered. He's on the ground. There's an FPV flying around him, kind of taunting the guy. He's just resigned to his fate, and then it flies into him.
He gets shot?
No, it flies into him, and then the video
explodes, right?
And distributes his body parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was a few days ago. Also, a few days ago.
That sucks.
It does, and it's really fucking brutal.
Yeah. At least he didn't live through the whole trauma of it.
There is a point to be made for that. But also, a few days ago, there was a drone that was over a Ukrainian soldier. He was with an injured comrade in a dugout, and the Russians. I'll include links to both of these. But the Russians, they dropped a radio to him, and they radio him saying, "Look, we want to get you out of here. Just lay down your weapons." And then they walked him out, and then they rescued the other guy.
I'm guessing if this is a common thing for both sides.
The one is common for the one side. The other is common, sadly, for the other side.
Well, what I'm saying is that my guess is that, well, keep in mind that you're being propagandized regardless.
I am. And that's
fair.
fair.
I imagine that the highlighting of specific events is meant to do something. Not,
true. But the thing is, we do see what each side chooses to highlight.
Yeah, the Russians are choosing to highlight the fact that one of theirs was killed, and the Russians are choosing to highlight the fact that they were giving mercy. So,
well, the Ukrainians.
Yeah, I would actually agree that
violence.
with Craig's interpretation here is it could easily saying, hey, this is the pro-Russian thing, that could easily be propagandized. That video got released from someone to somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not saying that these are things that didn't happen. I'm saying that they are being highlighted as if they are commonplace for one versus the other for a reason.
An individual is ensuring the spread of these videos to influence the culture. Not an individual, but
that is true. But also the videos that are released are indicative of the cultures which they represent.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. These could be unique circumstances in both
That's
cases.
A fair point, but the reactions there too.
I mean, I would argue, right, what was it? If we go back to the George Bush era, there was that whole military army team that was basically torturing and raping a prisoner that they captured in Iraq, right? I don't think that would be broad-based, applicable to the United States military, right? They were court-martialed and punished for their activities.
It took Snowden releasing the video for that to happen.
Yeah, but it still was that's. I don't think that's what's happening in the Navy. I don't think that was what was happening, and that's the attitudes of the.
Oh, we know what happens in the Navy.
I don't. Well, they're seamen for a reason. So I don't think I don't think the Army was even the Army, whatever they may be, while it was a unit and it happened at one time, I don't even think that's broad based for the Army, right? People do terrible things to each other. We do. And we do great things to each other. The question is not necessarily what is the prevalence on one side versus the other, and I think one video of each does not highlight a generalized culture.
That's fair. Unfortunately, I've been watching this thing since the beginning, and I have seen how each side has covered it, and this is.
I have seen many Ukrainian videos from a drone.
I shouldn't say how each side has covered it. And I have, but I've seen how people on each side have reacted. And I see a lot more, brother, please stop from one side. And I see a lot more, you must die, pig, from the other. And it's kind of outweighed that way. And I've tried to be objective in the media I consume, but that's been my observation.
Well, and that's to Craig's point. Craig turned around and said that the issue you have is who is promoting what, and how is it getting to you, right? Like this is a much more complicated web. Both of those are favorable to the Russian narrative for sure. So is it really that it's objective?
Well, actually, no. The other is also very positive for the Ukrainian narrative. They're very supportive of this. This is a great.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive,
right? Yeah, that's the one thing. It's like the one, they can both be good for Russians, but the other, the Ukrainians that I see are quite pleased to see this. Like, good, kill that Vatnik. I'm glad to see him dead. Hell yeah, awesome. That's great.
Well, I mean, they did get invaded. I mean.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have been.
Like, as a general rule, if China showed up over here, I'd be like, get those fucking chinks. Like, well, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if the Canadians came on board, I'd be like, get those fucking moose backs. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
You're not
wrong. We see ice raids. We see ice raids, right? And deportation. What was it? Early on in the Trump administration,
nobody's upset
down the border, and they had that woman who was like crying because she just illegally snuck into the border, and everybody was like, "Oh, too bad, so sad." You know what I mean? Like, we're being invaded.
51st. Come on now.
If we're getting invaded, we're gonna feel pretty motivationally the same.
Well, you say that, but I mean, we have been, and nobody did anything, so.
Oh, that's not true. We voted.
Buddy.
Buddy. Oh, yeah, good point. We did do that. We voted. We voted super hard.
Buddy, we got the border closed pretty quick.
Yeah, like, I don't think, I agree with you. Again, you can't be bitter about Biden, right? We kicked those motherfuckers straight to the curb. And they're still crying about it. They're still sitting there and having their little pout sessions being like, why is it that men don't like us? Why is the message of you all suck not resonating with young men?
That is true, but the thing is, there's still purging yet to do. So we're not quite
yes,
there.
There is. There
is more to do, but again, right? Like, so I am looking very much forward to the midterms. If we manage to cut the budget out of these left-wing organizations, we start throwing these people in jail for their crimes.
That's the thing. Where are the doggy cuts? That's actually a good topic, Twitch, because the doggy cuts, they can all be
everybody wants except for the
EOs,
GOP, I guess.
Yeah, they can all be EO issues, but they have to be codified for them to matter.
That they do.
Yeah. Well, so that was actually really interesting to me because when when they were talking about the big beautiful bill, I was in the oh my god, what the fuck is this thing? And then I found out was it Stephen Miller came out and explained why they did what they did, and it was like all of a sudden it made a lot more sense why I wasn't seeing the things, because he basically said this is like we can do certain types of bills at certain times. This is the way the government operates. It's unfortunate, but this time we're not able to do any doggy cuts because they're coming from here. Not here.
Okay.
And as an individual who works in the government, like 90% of the discussions we have in the government are what's known as colors of money discussions, because the way of government apportioning, you can only spend money on specific things at specific times in specific ways. And to turn around and find out that they have discretionary versus non-discretionary spending committees and specific processes which can apply to one but not the other is not a surprise.
But again, it kind of begs the question: where is the bill that codifies the doggy cuts?
Yeah, I mean, why is no one working on
That
this
is a
shit?
good question.
Why isn't going through?
If it can't be put into a bill because it has a certain committee restriction, then where's the committee that needs to do it, and how do we tell them to get their asses in gear?
I agree with that. Like, where is this thing? I was okay with the big beautiful bill, but I do want to see.
I'm not going to cry about not solving. I'm not going to cry about one solution not solving the problem, but I am going to be pretty annoyed if they don't find a solution to do it.
Right.
Because the solution exists. It's write a bill.
Well, I'm pretty pleased that they managed to make enough significant cuts to welfare programs that people cried about it.
Oh yeah,
Right?
The whole EBT shit.
There are a lot of people crying really hard and really loud about things that absolutely needed a fix.
I loved it when they're like, "You're taking away my healthcare." I'm like, I ain't taking away your healthcare. It ain't your fucking healthcare. It's my money.
I was gonna say, you know what? I am good. If you believe that, then I want you to. I want you to be firmly in the camp that cries about that the hardest that they can.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of crying hard, I don't know if you guys caught this one, but the Justice Department has a little bit of an update from about just 2 days ago, actually. The American Bar Association, well, the Justice Department doesn't really see them as a fair arbiter of judicial nominees, so they will no longer be referring to them in any fashion, actually, for...
Oh, I saw a little bit about this. Can you go into detail? I didn't have time to really dig into it.
I'll read it off to you.
They're very lefty.
This is from the Office of the Attorney General to President Bay of the ABA. So, Dear President Bay, for several decades, the American Bar Association has received special treatment and enjoyed special access to judicial nominees. In some administrations, the ABA received notice of nominees before a nomination was announced to the public. Some administrations would even decide whether to nominate an individual based on a rating assigned by the ABA. Unfortunately, the ABA no longer functions as a fair arbiter of nominees' qualifications, and its ratings invariably and demonstrably favor nominees put forth by democratic administrations. The ADA's steadfast refusal to fix the bias in its rating process, despite criticism from Congress, the administration, and the Academy, is disquieting. Accordingly, while the ABA is free to comment on judicial nominations along with other activist organizations, there is no justification for treating the ABA differently from other such activist organizations, and the Department of Justice will not do so. Specifically, the Office of Legal Policy will no longer direct nominees to provide waivers allowing the ABA to access non-public information, including bar records. Nominees will also not respond to questionnaires prepared by the ABA and will not sit for interviews with the ABA. Sincerely, Pam Bondi, etc., etc.
Yeah, basically, go get fucked is what it is.
Well, I mean, I hear it, but I'm not sure. So I guess I don't understand enough about what this organization does.
Completely out.
Well, I don't understand what this organization does, and I don't understand what the
Bar Association
the administration has. Yeah.
The American Bar. Well, keep in mind that
aside from passing the bar as an exam, I understand
judges are lawyers. Keep in mind, judges are lawyers.
Sure.
Just about every one of them is. They don't have to be, but just about everyone is. Judges are lawyers, and because of that, the Bar Association has significant sway and pull on not only who gets passed into the bar, but like it's like saying AICHE is no longer capable of just advising the government on who to put in charge of certain engineering tasks.
I understand kind of. I'm not.
But also like the why
the memo
they are
is
even
not
asked.
unclear. I'm just curious, like how much, like what is the significance of this action, right?
They typically are
what
consulted.
did they do?
They would
but
have
what is
been
the
one
ABA
of the
doing?
most important vetting organizations, depending on how much is put out there. So, depending on the administration,
Typically they're consulted
they
for
might
judges.
make them a very important consultant that we're not gonna move forward without their go ahead. And in other administrations, like say the previous Trump administration, it would be they would go ahead and provide all that information to them, provide the questionnaires, provide the access, and then that would all be published, and they may or may not go forward with it based on
Consider
that.
that.
But now they're not
So-
even going
so-
to take that step.
I was going to say, in short, consider that whatever influence they may or may not have had in the past, they were part of the process, and now they are not.
Yeah, they've basically been nullified as a member of
They've
the
been told-
vetting procedure at all.
Now,
Their stated
why was
goal
this
of being
done?
impartial, their stated purpose of
impartiality.
being an impartial advisor.
They
So
told
their
us
I,
stated
I get.
purpose,
I obviously
it has
that's-
not come to fruition. They have been violating their own stated standard of being impartial by
what have
significantly
they
leaning
done?
towards one political persuasion.
Mhm.
Is that because is that a numerical? Is it a percentage? Like
yeah.
in what
It's
way?
perceptual.
Well, not even perceptual. No, it's actually, you can look at the demographics. It's just that there are many more Democratic judges that have been put through by way of the ABA's recommendations. They just rate them higher.
Always.
I see.
Without fail.
So at a bare
Okay, I
minimum,
see what you're saying.
biasing.
So they have a
the
scoring
numbers.
system. They rate different judges according to the scoring system. Judges are rating on the scoring system based on politics. Avowed politics?
Rulings, their history, their stances. I couldn't tell you the actual specifics of it because I haven't looked over.
Because
Because
that's I guess that's the challenge that I have, right? Because the
Yeah.
the challenge to the Trump administration right now is, are you guys like overstepping, right? Are you overcorrecting? That's the challenge. And so
Certainly.
I'm not opposed to the idea. Like I've seen a lot of these rulings for the judiciary, these injunctions. A lot of them have been overturned in the appeals process. Some of them have not been. Some of them have been. Like a lot of this stuff is. Somebody needs to create a website that sits there and tallies like the Trump wins versus the stuff that's tied up in appeals. But I understand where people like. I can understand the motivation of the admin to turn around and say, "Hey, this is ridiculous. Why are we putting these people into power?" Right? They're overstepping their roles consistently. But the question ultimately comes down to, is it fair or is it not fair? And when we turn around and talk about something like the ABA, if we don't really know how their scoring system is biased, and we don't know how many efforts there have been to correct that scoring system, it could also be that there are just more Democrat judges, because there's more Democrat, there's more Democrats coming out of college, right? There's more Democrats
Sure.
and Republicans that graduate with
But
bachelors.
being a judge requires a significant amount of time as a lawyer. It
right,
does.
but
So,
if I turn around and I have 60% of the population of lawyers is Democrats and 40% is Republicans, is that biased?
Well, in and of itself, no. But when we consider the background that's allowed this to occur, yes.
I mean,
In context, yes. But
I
in and
understand
of
that,
itself,
yes.
no.
But if the ABA is turning around and just basically producing people and candidates that are weighted in accordance with the average statistics, and the average statistics skew Democrat, that's not necessarily the ABA is biased. It just might be there's more Democrats that are more qualified, right? And that's not a good thing. I agree with what you were saying, Evan. I think there's been structural stuff against anybody who's not leftist or progressive for a long period of time. I think Obama really set that up really well, and we're dealing with the after effects of an activist administration all the way through to today. But at the same time, I don't know if that's I don't know if I can turn around and point fault at the ABA, and I haven't heard anything here where we all know enough to say this is what they're doing explicitly, and it's somehow deviates significantly from the national average of applicant, or the national applicant pool average.
Well, there just isn't more data to share with you, I'm afraid. Sorry. I'd like to know more, but I'm just sharing it as presented by the DOJ. So
Yeah.
based on that,
I
and
know.
based on at least what I've seen over the years in following this, it tracks. But I can't really give you a lot of hard data, unfortunately. Just nature of the beast. I am not a law podcaster, so we.
Well, it's a good thing
uh,
you aren't.
Yeah, for
If you
real.
want to make that jump,
We are.
I feel bad,
Josh,
but it's a cyanosis.
Josh.
He's working on it. He's suing. They are fucking with him in ways that they should not be.
Who?
No, we need to get him on. Jesus, really? I've asked that guy and asked that guy. If anybody knows Josh,
look,
aside from you, because I know you've asked him. Anybody else that knows him, put a word out.
Who
I'd
is
love
this?
to get the guy on. Shit, I'd take Ricada.
Joshua Moon.
Kiwi Farms guy.
He's trying to get the Rekieta law, the raid video, and he's getting fucked so hard by the state lawfare that's been going on with him. Like to the level that the prosecutor showed up like the day that it was possible for him to get the video. Within like the first hour of the day, personally walked up a complaint letter or whatever to the judge. Like got there immediately so that there was no possibility of the video, which was already fought for to get being released prior to that. Like I guess it was an advocacy letter or whatever, being given to the judge. Like the judge has to take it into consideration, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it was already ordered for the video to be released. It's like it should not have been a thing to stop the video from being released, but I guess that it has somehow.
Yeah, it's
ridiculous levels of effort to not allow this video to be released.
Hoops are being jumped through for.
And it's not like it's going to be some sort of political.
It's just going to be really embarrassing.
Corruption or something. It's just going to be embarrassing for one guy. Frankly.
Well, one guy and two women, but nonetheless.
Well, possibly the family. I get that part.
But either way,
but again,
that's all
he shouldn't have been out there doing this shit.
Right? I mean,
the thing that's going to come out of this is people are going to go, "Oh wow, his house is dirty, and there's the cocaine they found."
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, so maybe you aren't the perfect guy you made yourself out to be, and
so it's really just about being embarrassing for Rekieta, and it should not be the basis for withholding that from the public as a First Amendment complaint.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you're setting shitty precedents by doing this. You're a fucking lawyer. What the fuck? Just fucking man up, dude.
Yeah, Rackets is that guy is he's got troubles.
He does.
And it was not even like specifically about him. It's become a precedent issue. So what happens now? What happens if the public says we want to see that video of Diddy beating up his girlfriend in the hallway? To show the public what kind of person Diddy is. And this is again after the jury pool selection. So they're instructed not to see him. Fine, that's great and all. Now what about the rest of us? We all want to see why is it this guy even finally got scuttled by the justice system? Oh, it's because he really was that much of a piece of shit.
Yeah,
that video never getting released probably would have meant he never got called out finally. He never got arrested. His 80 gallon, 50 gallon barrel freak out parties would have probably still been continuing to this day.
Yeah, you just have to wonder who's the new guy in hip hop that's doing the thing.
Well, probably won't have to wonder for long.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find.
But yeah, but again, like that video never getting released means he would have continued to do his thing, beating and breaking women.
At least women.
So
Justin Bieber cough.
Like there was a compelling public interest in that video being released. So in the same sense, for Rekieta, I think that you could make an argument that there isn't as compelling a public interest, but because he's so publicly well known, because he did so much of those LawTube videos, like he's kind of a big enough thing to be taken seriously for that.
Yeah, he did kind of make himself into
He's a victim of his own success in that, right?
Yeah,
Which,
he's become a topic
is
in
what
and
it
of
is.
himself by nature of what he does. Sorry, that's just one of those things that happens. You when you put yourself out there like that, you gotta whether you like it or not, you're held to a different standard. Sorry, Nick, that's just the way it is.
So, I mean, in the same vein, now, like, keep in mind, this guy's been ordered not to do drugs, and he's doing fucking whippets.
His fingers are blue.
Like,
His fingers are blue.
Yeah, from a lack of oxygen.
Cyanosis. He has cyanosis. His fingernail beds, around the rim of his eyes, you can see it. He has cyanosis. Yeah, if you inhale whippets, your blood vessels and your extremities.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. I'm just like that's a lot of.
It's a lot of nitrous, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's talking about the quantity. You don't get nitrous shock like that off of a single dose. That is like inhaling a whole fucking can.
Yep.
Oh my.
Kind of nuts.
Speaking of health things, one of the things I wanted to bring our friend along for here is to talk about some of the moves in health here with like the removal of dyes and additives in foods and sodas that we're seeing with the HHS, because we've got kind of two different points of view on some of these things, like aldehydes and chemicals that have been added to, say, our drinks specifically.
Yeah, let's talk chemistry.
Oh, true. This is the person who needed to be told what the fucking aldehyde was.
No, I know what they are.
I'm not saying that as if you don't know. I'm saying as in like how common they are in your food, in your body, in everything that you eat.
Oh yeah.
Or drink.
Absolutely, but like, I don't know, man. I don't think they should be added as much as they are.
So what about something like cinnamaldehyde?
No, I'm talking about like benzaldehyde. And then
benzaldehyde is food safe. That's cherry. That is cherry and almond flavor, and that doesn't matter if it comes from synthetic or not. That is the flavor of those substances. That's like saying you don't want cinnamaldehyde in your cinnamon food. That's literally the flavor that it's based on. Like that's what it is.
I know.
Benzaldehyde is not going to be any different. It's like if you don't want benzaldehyde in a food, then you don't want any food that tastes like almonds or like cherries. Period.
I mean, you could use almonds.
Well, there, like, we use a lot of different aldehydes, and some of them don't smell like anything that is normal. Aldehyde C14.
It's a combination.
Yeah, aldehyde C11, C12, lauric acid, like lauric aldehyde. I've seen the studies where, like, in high enough concentrations, it can damage DNA.
Sure, but again, that's a dose makes the poison.
Yeah, and the FDA does say, it's in such small amounts as to be rendered harmless. But I don't know how much I trust the FDA anymore.
Same FDA that approved aspartame.
That's fair, but again, I can tell you that like these things are generally not being added in amounts that are dangerous because you are very sensitive to these substances. That's why they're flavor molecules.
Well, so let me offer the following. I'm kind of in between on this. I agree with Craig. A lot of these things are food safe. I also agree on the other side that there's a limit to how many of these things I kind of want to see from a synthetic side, predominantly because our sensitivity can be altered by oversaturation.
And what about
so our sensitivity is a scaling thing, and one of the things that we run into as a problem, salt's a good example. So my wife barely cooks with any salt, and I think that's actually fantastic. I get to taste my food more clearly as far as I can tell. But it also means that when I go out to a restaurant and they cook for the average American palate, it feels like my fucking mouth is on fire and I'm dying from dehydration. So like when we start talking about the synthetic additive of specific aldehydes, as opposed to doing, more of a food-based separation, like say, I guess separation would be correct. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done my chemistry, but if I was to do, say, like when you turn around and say cinnamon aldehyde
I can't remember what.
Cinnamaldehyde.
A little
Yeah.
drunk, so the words don't
Fair
come
enough.
off as easily right now.
Words. How do those work?
There is a difference, I think, between doing a chemical extraction through traditional food processing methods and the addition of a synthetic concentration that is much higher than what you could achieve through traditional food manufacturing.
I gotta warn you. That's a bad example for that one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is
Just offhand, but I get what you're going for. But I am gonna say that's a bad example.
And it's
I'm not saying it. It's not a specific thing. My point is that if we were to turn around and cook these things as you would if we were to retrieve the ingredients in the natural environment, the concentrations would be a lot lower than what we get in these.
So the concentration of cinnamaldehyde, in cinnamon oil is about 80% by mass. So just FYI.
Well,
it is actually a very concentrated molecule in the flavor.
Sure.
And anything you make with cinnamon in it is going to have
a
lot of it in it.
The general point is true, is that
right.
That if
that's why I said it was a bad example.
If we were to have these things as a general, hey, I've got a food additive or something like that, but we kept the concentrations normal.
Well, here's another one.
Get in standard food processing, but we have stuff. We have sugar concentrations that are way greater than what we'd be able to normally achieve without chemical synthesis.
Sure.
Well,
right.
Again,
we have salt concentrations
here's an example.
Way greater than what we would be able to achieve.
Here's a counterexample: is dried fruit.
Natural methods.
Dried fruit has a really high concentration of sugar in it. Sure, it's not sugar encrusted dried fruit, but dried fruit has a significant amount of sugar.
So actually, it has no greater
Fructose
concentration. It has no greater of concentrate. Dried fruit has no greater of a concentration, in terms of like
it has
overall calorie content than a regular piece of fruit. The only thing it doesn't have
but you can also eat more of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Again.
Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if you'd argue that you can really eat more of it.
Sure, you can.
It has less water to take up space. You can absolutely eat more of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you're probably gonna, if you eat a whole bunch of dried fruit.
I have a much better example. I have a much better and I think a little more interesting example, which I only really know because of the specific experiment I had to fix as an undergrad, working in the lab, our unit ops lab. We stripped acetone from water using stripped acetone from butyl acetate using water. And butyl acetate is banana flavoring. So if I asked you to hazard a guess here, equal parts per million, whatever, in food, if you had butyl acetate from bananas versus butyl acetate that was synthesized chemically, which one would you suspect would be the one that is on an equal basis more dangerous? And again, keep in mind that we're talking about kind of marginal danger here, but unequal playing field.
I don't know.
Natural or artificial? Which one would you go for banana flavoring?
I don't know, nor do I care. At the end of the day, that's not really the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that when we make food,
here's the answer.
The chemicals tends to be less saturated than we have with
food
that is non-synthetic.
But here's the answer. Keep in mind, dose makes the poison on things. The contaminant in natural banana flavoring is methylmercury. But the contaminant in artificial is ammonia.
So you're obsessed with dose makes the poison. That's not what's being argued here. Whether or not it's
as I said, it's a different thing, a different example.
Like from a holistic thing, whether it's good to oversaturate your system with compounds and basically rewire your brain in terms of what you think a flavor should actually be.
Here's where I'm coming into your argument.
From the natural environment, that's a question, right?
Well,
that's
here's where I'm coming towards your point here is if with that information, would you avoid bananas?
I don't care.
No.
I don't think I would avoid bananas. It's not about that. It's about the addition into food.
Well,
right? I'm not saying I don't think he's arguing that chemical extraction is a problem, right? Or that chemical extraction can't be done, or that food additives can't be done. It's just, like how much should we really be putting in?
Well, it's also about like how much is being ingested. Like,
Yeah.
like there was a study of a dude who excessively drank this grapefruit soda, which
Uh-huh.
which they used brominated vegetable oils, and
Sure.
he got like severe thyroid disease from it.
Well,
And
there was an
it's
entire Keenan and Kel episode making fun of people drinking too much orange soda, which has brominated vegetable oil as a food coloring.
no, it's not a coloring. It's to prevent the flavors from separating out. That's the only thing it does. It doesn't add flavor. It doesn't
Sure.
add color. So it's
Well,
already
I can
been.
tell you, brominated oils are orange.
Yeah, I know. They're orange and they're also extremely thick.
Yes.
Brominated, a 55-gallon drum of brominated vegetable oil is like 600 pounds. Where a
Brominate's
normal,
heavy.
yeah. So like, it's already been outlawed in Europe and banned in Japan, but we can still use it because the FDA
Right,
says
recognize the
it's.
space.
Now,
Yeah.
I will argue this. How many great ideas should American? How many or not great ideas? How many ideas coming out of Europe do Americans respect? Or
Exactly.
should
Well,
we
yeah.
care about?
I don't know.
True.
I kind of like the space program.
I'm not saying it makes them bad ideas, but I'm saying the argument, the genetic argument, the genetic fallacy argument that's being made there, that they come
Yeah.
from Europe or Europe and Japan say they're bad, therefore we should too, is not.
Well, I mean,
strong.
yeah, but it actually is bad for you. Like,
Well,
that's the part where you can hammer on.
So,
yeah.
so as the parents once told us, if all of your friends jumped off a bridge, would you follow them?
Right.
Is a fair question. However, I believe XKCD responded to this the best and said, well, that all depends on the scenario. The question is really,
Is
if
the
all
bridge-
of my friends, who I assume are inherently rational people, are jumping off the bridge, what is more probable? They're crazy or the bridge is on fire? And that's I think the thing when we start evaluating European policies on something like food. I'm not
Well, I
saying
mean,
I'm
the
not
alternative-
saying that we have to follow everything the Europeans do or the Europeans are smarter than us. But if everybody else is doing something, then
Well,
maybe
Japan and
there's
Europe
a
have banned
reason
guns.
for it.
Japan and Europe both really don't like people
Yeah,
having
and
guns.
by the way, we understand the reason why which they banned guns. We disagree with it. That's
Exactly.
perfectly fine,
But
right?
if everyone's doing it, and you assume that they're rational
But-
actors, et cetera, right? That's what
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
no. I mean, like you understand
they
the
are rational
reason
actors,
why
but
they
the
are
gun thing is a
doing the
different
banning
argument.
of the guns. They're afraid of guns.
Sure.
That's
And
fine.
Japan and Europe are our friends. What's more likely, that they're both wrong or that the bridge is on fire? I say they're both wrong.
Sure, but when it comes to food additives, I don't think this is a case where we have a
Which
philosophical.
is fine. Again, though, the genetic fallacy is in play there, and I obviously made that as a joke, and we've gone full bore into it. But I'm just saying, the reason for it to be banned absolutely cannot be because Europe and Japan said so.
Oh no. It's just because
Nobody's
it's
going
actually
to ever
bad.
buy that over here. No one will buy that over here, and no one should.
No, but I mean, the same argument can be made for, well, the studies that were run in Europe on silencers for guns show us that it is healthier for people to use a silencer
Right, but
on a firearm.
we've replicated those studies over here for a reason.
Well,
I
and
would
we haven't
I would
replicated many of those
generally
others.
trust, when you turn around and take a look at other aspects of health too. The Europeans are the ones who sat there and pulled forth a CAS review, right? Like that was
Yeah.
the
was
Americans
England.
are sitting there and with a thumb up their ass going, oh yes, I've been told by multiple activist organizations that this must be true, and therefore it is, and all of you guys are crazy. Meanwhile, it was
We
the
would've gotten there.
Europeans who had the the audacity to even question the standard
We would've gotten
narrative
there.
on things.
One
Uh,
hope.
I bet you we would have had that study going on right now with Trump in office.
I don't know. I don't know.
I bet.
I don't know if
I
that's.
bet we were already done with this shit over here already. Like, we would have absolutely said, you know what, how do we go ahead and prove them wrong? Oh, we'll actually look at the problem.
Well, from the top, that's a possibility, but that would mean that the whole process would have to have been begun here then instead, and that's just not what happened.
Well, it's actually against my interest to like advise people to not drink flavored beverages because that's what pays my bills. But like
Sure.
I don't drink this stuff anymore, man, because I know what's in it, and it's like you need 40 different chemicals to make something that almost resembles mango, and people love that
Well,
shit.
Yeah. Well,
No.
here's a good question for you.
Mango
What is it that flavors
flavoring is an
mangoes?
abomination unto God, just like nacho cheese.
Sure, but again,
Yes.
how many chemicals are involved in the flavor that makes up mango? Naturally?
many.
Yeah, but
Too
like
fucking many.
But how are those molecules? How are those molecules arranged in the fruit itself, and what are they bound to?
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
What happens to the
I
fruit
don't
when
know.
you put it in a blender? What happens to the fruit when you put it in a blender?
Yeah, well, it
Whatever
does.
arrangement was in the fruit no longer matters.
But the flavor molecules don't change, like
Right.
because all
The
these
surroundings
flavors
get ripped apart.
because all these flavors are in an alcohol solution. I'm talking like 190 proof. So
Right.
like
Yeah, I get that.
how does that change the molecules? What
I mean, that won't change the molecules.
Well,
It won't do a whole lot, especially once it gets dispersed into the rest of whatever you're putting it into.
yeah,
Now,
I know. It's
a
just
mango smoothie,
personally.
which is like a mango alcoholic beverage, that's a little different.
Yeah. Well, like
But-
I can't drink cherry Coke because I taste the benzaldehyde.
Well, that's the fun part. Once you start to learn all the different individual chemicals and you do a lot of chemistry, you start to taste the individual ones. Like I taste caffeine in anything I drink that has it in it.
I used to love Dr. Pepper, but I can't drink it anymore because now I can taste the fentanyl alcohol that's in it.
Sure.
Well,
that stuff is nasty.
Let me present a question here.
Well, anything that has coprolactones in it is or copric acids in it is kind of already like one of those kind of like, well, that seems like it's going to be a little weird, but it's called copric for a reason. That's because it's typically present in poop.
Yeah.
But there are coprates out there that are used in as supplements.
Well,
as a supplement acid.
Let me pose something here and just get your thoughts on that, both of you, I guess. I mean, water is perfectly safe, and I'm not going to go with you can drown in water, and none of that bullshit. Not if you drink too much.
Well, if you drink enough of it, you can.
Not that either. But water's fine to drink. Water's fine. You're made of a lot of water. But heavy water, you can't drink heavy water. You
can drink a little bit of it.
A little of it, yeah.
Oh yeah, you can drink heavy water.
You can.
You totally can.
You absolutely can.
The most
tritium goes like straight through you.
The most famous example of the most extreme cases is Russia's deuterated dogs, and one of the highest they got for a deuterated dog was 50% of hydrogens inside its body replaced, which is a ridiculously expensive, funny experiment. But the dog grew up and it was just fine at 50%. Drinking one little dram that you're probably going to be able to buy offline of deuterated water is not going to do shit to you.
Right, but
at most, if you have some sort of enzymatic sensitivity, you're going to feel a little sick to your stomach for like a day or whatever.
Sure, but
it's not going to kill you. It's not going to like incapacitate you.
But what if you're having this all the time, like you do with sodas, for instance, where you normally have these.
Like, because some people drink lots of soda.
Dude, there was a guy in my middle school.
My mama told me anytime you have a sugar, you drink a diet to counteract the sugar.
A guy
quoting someone.
A guy I knew, and actually I see him on rare occasion. A guy I knew, his dad is actually my radiologist for my kidneys. He drank 20 diet Cokes a day. 20. It's about on the order of. Yeah, like this guy drowned himself in Diet Coke, and
kind of literally.
It's like, right, and going to your point on excessiveness here. This is anywhere between like a standard 250 ml or 12 ounce can up to like a 20 ounce bottle. Any in that range, 20 of those a day.
Well, just like we were talking before the show,
I'm not going to say he's just fine because the guy was a bit of a dumbass, and that was unfortunately not because of the Diet Coke. I can tell you that right now. He was also not a phenylketonuria. He was not a phenylketonuric, so it was also not that. But he drank a lot of that shit. Now this, of course, is after we found out that packing a rat's stomach with NutraSweet gives him liver cancer. We also found out, similar study, not the same one, that long-term low dose gives cancer as well. So it wasn't just, oh wow, they massively overdosed them on NutraSweet, on aspartame, and they got cancer. It was, we know that long-term low dose still gives cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy is still chugging 20 fucking sodas a day at that point. It's like, dude, you're gonna... Now, I'll tell you, if in the future he ever gets liver cancer, I'm thinking we're gonna know why.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things I'm not averse to getting rid of. No, I also have, with my kidney fund, I have to avoid artificial sweeteners in general because they go out in your urine more than they go out in your colon. I also don't overdo it on sugar, but that's a separate thing.
Sure.
Well, there's a correlation between cancer and acetaldehyde, and
acetaldehyde, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why alcoholics. That's why alcoholics have a higher rate of cancer.
Now, why do we have the enzymes that produce that in the first place? Is a good question for you. What did our monkey ancestors do a lot of that our monkey brethren still do today?
Cocaine.
Now that was racist.
But on that note...
No, so I meant literal fucking monkeys, you monkey.
Oh, well, on that note, so out of South Africa...
Hey, overripe... No, we'll get there in just a moment.
They got drunk over rotten fruit, yeah.
Right, and that's why we produce that primarily in the first place, alcohol dehydrogenase. Acetaldehyde dehydrogenase we produce because we produce this cancer-making molecule in our bodies. Now, in the amounts that we would get drunk off from rotten fruit, it's probably not going to be the kind of case that you get with piping down 190 every so often.
Well, let me tell you, if I drink like a couple beers, like real quick, say like I have like 3 in an hour, which is that's quick drinking.
You get a hangover?
No, I can taste the acetaldehyde on my breath. Like I can taste and smell it. Like I can feel it coming off me. And
here's the funny thing: most people don't know what that taste is. It's interesting, isn't it?
Well, I know because we use it as an ingredient for certain flavors. So we're putting that into stuff. It's just like, all right, well.
Now, sometimes when it's used as a flavoring, it's used because acetaldehyde is reactive enough where it will, and this just goes to your credit and point on aldehydes. Acetaldehyde is reactive enough where that carbonyl will absolutely invite a nucleophilic attack, and it will attach that kind of acetate group onto something. So, like that is a classic for a carbonyl kind of attack.
So there is something here, and we really
it's a dynamic thing. That is a reactive ingredient.
Widely about
what I'm saying is that it goes away.
Using chemicals in our foodstuffs.
What I was saying is that acetaldehyde generally will go away because it reacts when you add it into the flavoring mixture. So it's not present in the final product, it's an ingredient that made it. Which is different from like a list of ingredients in a product because in that case, it's just a combination, it's a mixture, not a reaction that has produced one new thing. But I totally derailed your segue into South Africa, so...
Nah, not really.
Lead on.
There's not a whole lot of segue there. Just the update is Ramaphosa. Nothing changes, quite literally. The update out of South Africa from Ramaphosa himself: South Africa will continue to use race-based terms until all are equal.
Of course,
that's
it will.
Your update.
Oh, you mean like forever then?
And until the people of South Africa, until it goes the way of Rhodesia, or does something drastic.
Good. You know what? See. Fuck it. Let them go fools and they can enjoy all the fun that comes out of that. Now, what I will say also is they must be made to live with their decisions because I don't want to fucking finance yet another Zimbabwe and have my fucking tax dollars feeding some asshole who is screaming about white people and try to kill them all.
Yep. The only thing
I
that
don't care
one
what
from
color
Southern
skin it
Africa
was
is
that
to
they're
get
going
all
after.
of
I
the
don't want a
innocent
fucking
people out of there.
genocidal asshole being paid by us.
I just want to get
You
all
know
those innocent
what's
people out
great
of there.
about that whole entire thing, though? You know what's great about them sitting there and saying that? Is they evaluated it, and they came to the
This is the right thing to
conclusion.
do.
Well, no, they came to the conclusion that one, that they're going to continue doing it, but they actually sat there like they came up with they're going to
They gave it a
continue
big
doing
think.
it, but like they also sat there and thought about it and realized that it looked really fucking bad.
Yeah. I did like the way that was ambushed on him. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
It
a
was not
fucking big
ambushed.
dick move. I know he fucking had an idea. I'm just saying, like,
He knew
that was
exactly
sprung
what
on
was
him.
coming.
That was sprung on him, and nobody in the room, none of them wanted to look at it.
Yeah,
They're all just looking away.
That was good stuff to see.
And Trump's
Really
sitting
was.
there having himself a little single-person audience review of the footage.
One of the best
Hey,
parts
here's
of
where,
it though, was, when the guy that Ramaphosa brought along, the golfer, because
Yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, so this thing with the farmers, like that's happening. And Ramaphosa's guest is like, oh yeah, I know that happened to a friend of mine. It's like, man,
Oof.
talk about getting cooked, man. Speaking of cooked. There's not a lot to cover here because basically everybody already has, but Harvard, shoo, they are really,
Oh, man.
they are catching it.
Okay. I think it's worth talking about something here with that.
Oh,
So,
you got something specific to add? Feel free.
I think we have some context we can add here because I just came out of, I just finished with my doctorate,
Sure.
so I got some closer proximity on the whole funding research and so on.
Please educate us, Dr. Mansfield.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sure, we'll do. And it must be
yours,
doctor
sir.
now. You can't not call me doctor because I got a doctor. Did I mention I was fucking hate that shit. Those people need to just call me Bob, right? So
Anyway, the podium is yours, sir.
yeah, thank you. So you show up, you do your research there. You have to get a grant in order to do it. That grant money typically comes from universities, connection with government. So you're going to be applying for a government grant. This used to be done in the private sector. Used to just go to a research park as a university student and do your research work for a university program at the research park for a company, largely in hopes that you'd get into that company after you completed your degree. So Bell Labs used to be a thing, right?
Yeah. Menlo
That's a
Park
classic
also,
example
for
of a
instance.
research park. Classic example of a research park is Bell Labs. Those were all cannibalized in the 80s because of the Bayh-Dole Act passing, which incentivized universities to favorably monetize the IP on their own terms. Basically gave them a leg up in the market. And so they, of course, started doing all the research on campus. Companies found it much cheaper to just let them invest in the equipment. And all they had to do was provide the money to get the supplies and whatnot and pay the researchers. And then that evolved into universities taking larger and larger amounts off the top as overhead. It's 50% average today that the university takes off the top of a grant that comes in. That said, all of the research that used to be done at those research parks was still basically federally funded. It's just that the commercialization came out of the companies that produced it. And then, of course, the patent expires and they have to help with commercialization at large. The generic versions that came out were still based off of the stuff the company did. So what I'm saying there is that, you can't just get rid of the funding entirely and say the private sector will make up for it. The private sector used to do it with government grants to start with, but they had research parks.
So
should research parks become a thing again? Sure. But when it comes to Harvard specifically, getting their shit kicked in because of the way that they've been doing things, and then Trump saying fuck off, they're going to point to some of the high profile stuff as far as the research grants. But what I'm glad they're getting hit for is all the bullshit that they were getting funded for otherwise. And then the fucking university getting half of it when it came in.
Ultimately, what we're going to end up seeing, and this is the reality, is there are other universities
which
aren't doing
That's the other side of it.
and they're like the researchers. I feel bad, right? They're in
Feel terrible for the
Boston. They've got a
students,
nice thing. The students, they're disadvantaged, but the
but they
university
were
has
let down by the
decided on an
university, not us.
administrative level that they're going to do this. That doesn't mean that
Exactly.
this research isn't going to get done. It's just not going to get done at Harvard.
Exactly.
That's really all this changes. And so,
That-
yeah, is it going to set people back? Yes, I will agree that it
Yes.
will probably set research back by like 3 months or 6 months or whatever while they reallocate those.
I'd
funds
say
to
I'd
another
say a
location.
year is realistic because the research is then going to have to
Sure.
be picked up in another group.
Sure. And is a lost year of research sad? Yes.
Yeah.
Is the cancer that is DEI worth getting rid of? Like, if we had
Yeah.
to put science on pause for a year and we all took a year, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sitting here as an
Again, this
individual
is
in good health.
It's
and
only
all the other
science at
stuff.
Harvard too.
Right.
That's the thing.
And we gotta also consider here that as part of this, while there's certainly these grants that were really, really close and they were looking really good, there's also a lot of shit that was probably going on there that wasn't particularly great.
That's the part I was getting to at the end. So I set up the whole little spiel at the beginning. There was basically to frame it so that here's what we kind of desire and the evolution to where it got on campus in the first place. The shit that came with it, everything that ends in studies as a major, none of that happened at a fucking research park. Zero of it. All of that was propped up. That 50% overhead that comes off the top, that goes to the university administration writ large. That also includes redistribution to programs that can't fund themselves, like everything that ends in studies. The only reason they can have students that are supported is because of bullshit government grants and taking half out of every other fucking grant that comes in.
Actually,
That
there's
used to
a
piss me off
lot
to
of
no end.
hold on. There's a lot more than just bullshit government grants. Don't get me wrong, bullshit government grants are there, but if
All
you
right, let me
want
put it
to
like
talk
this:
about
if I'm
the
competing
studies
against someone in
programs,
studies,
the studies programs are created by Gen Ed requirements, right? And I am vehemently opposed to Gen Ed requirements because this is the shit in universities that'll take an engineer and make them be a well-rounded person
It's
by
make
having them take a fucking gender studies course. And the reason that these Gen Ed requirements exist is because those departments, if they didn't get students taking those courses by force,
Right.
by the universities forcing them to take it, they wouldn't have funding and they wouldn't be
Now-
able to keep the department. And so that
keep in
department would
mind
close.
those
And that is
those
a good
professors.
thing. That is market fucking forces at work.
Keep in mind those professors only have professorships because they can do research. Those research opportunities have to produce funding in the first place. That's how the grants come in. But those grants may not cover it all, which is why they use the overhead to flood in for the departments that aren't making up enough of an income. Like part of it, it was originally designed so that new professors who could come in could have money to set up their infrastructure and get research underway. It's totally fucking left that purpose.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous.
just,
So what
like-
I'm saying is that the grant money they pull in, you have to compete it. So you have to realize, like, you compete against the studies departments for NIH grants.
Yep.
Like that's the National Institute of Health shouldn't be bothering with fucking gender studies. But now you
Well,
have to
and
deal with that
that's-
shit.
That's the thing is the other thing too is that not only are you competing against the gender studies groups, right, but you also have to keep in mind that as much as we're turning around and saying, oh my God, Harvard's losing this grant, and we talked about that potential year of loss, well, guess what? There's probably like 3 or 4 different grants aiming at that specific subject in multiple different areas.
in the
And
background.
Harvard
Right.
got
I'm gonna be
chosen
checking
largely by
corporate
name.
X profiles just to see if they've because we are after midnight. I'm going to see if they've updated. I'll keep you informed. Please go on, guys.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we're
That I will
We're
actually.
past
I'm
midnight in
not. I'm
two
not
time zones.
thinking that we're gonna see a lot of pride shit this go around.
I'm hoping
No
not.
to Ubisoft.
Again, yeah. Steve, you're here. I mentioned there's 188 days.
Ooh, Bethesda's
188
black.
fucking days.
Interesting.
Good.
Yeah,
so-
and one of the things I give credit to the individual who was on the Culture War yesterday for Timcast. I keep on pointing to her because she was awesome. As she's like one of the best articulated liberals that I've seen in a very long period of time.
Those are
She
difficult
didn't
to find these
require
days.
what it really is. So like she deserves credit. And I sat there and I sent her a DM. I'm like, look, I watched you. You did a great job. You were wrong on some stuff. You're right on some other stuff. Because Tim Pool is not a particular like I put him on because he puts a shitload of content out, but he's not
Yeah.
particularly great. And I'm not hating on him. I just it's just not. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, and it gets kind of frustrating because I do.
Right.
And that's the hard part about listening to him. It's like, yeah, he's
Yeah.
got a great voice. He's an eloquent speaker, but man. But in any case,
I'm just a man of the streets. Well, we know.
So this chick came out and she's she did just a great a great discussion on this whole entire thing where she was talking about just these subjects themselves, and it was actually very well done. So like I don't know.
Wow.
Well,
I've searched all
so
of
here's-
it. I've even gotten down to Vanguard
Oh,
Capital.
that's right. That's what I was gonna say. She was mentioning that one of the bigger problems that you have right now on the left is that the left essentially decided to engage in this kind of crazy LGBT stuff. And this is like most liberals are sick of it. Most LGBT individuals are sick of it. Everybody's fucking fatigued with it. And I've seen it like the hashtags. There's black fatigue as a hashtag. There's shit like that where people are just fucking sick of this shit.
The whole fatigue meme has taken off, which is kind of disgusting and kind of hilarious. Like I don't like that black fatigue as like a meme became a meme, but again,
no, I
everyone
think
being able to say they're sick of random things. Well, I think that it's there is a history to that one, which is pretty fucking vile. But it is what it is.
I suppose
that's all I really can say about it. It's not like you can go back and change it. I suppose you can take it back like they did in Clerks too, right?
Okay, I've looked at every major corporation that I can think of that's notorious. Every car manufacturer and every game company, not one.
what is it? There was I think I saw it today.
All the managers are
This is
asleep.
as of 1:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, June 1st, but I mean,
Yeah, well, because again, I bet you their content managers are all their social media managers are all sleeping probably.
Yeah, I would not put that as it's a Saturday evening, and maybe it's getting updated.
Yeah.
Realistically, they should have tools that automatically put posts at specific times for shit that's really important.
Well, the posts will come out, but I'm guessing that the changes to the profiles
I didn't see any posts either.
Automatically. So the thing I was going to get to at the end with that bit on Harvard was that the people who matter, like it sucks ass to have to apply it. This is why I said it might take a year. It sucks ass to have to apply to another university, and then get in and then move all your shit and then start over again, or can try to continue, especially if a professor has a friend and you can continue your work there. And then there's some people who are just going to have to go home, and that sucks for them. But the thing is, like people who are worth something, who are worthwhile, will get a recommendation to get their research done at a lab that's commensurate to their abilities. They'll stay here. They will absolutely get a recommendation letter from their professor. There will be a professor at the other university who says that they're great, fantastic, good fit. Come in, get your work done here. Hey guys, we got someone from Harvard. That, and it's also an opportunity to try and rank up if your university is not like as prestigious as
and again, right?
There's
the time
ways
loss.
to make good out of it.
Is there a time loss? Is a time loss sad?
Absolutely.
Yes. Are there people who are technically going to probably die because of this? Yes,
No.
there are. No, I would actually. I would say yes, right? Like, there's going to be research. If you delay research for a year, then
fair.
at some
There's a
unspecified
possibility.
time, there's a theoretical person that exists who would die because this research didn't come out.
Yes, there. Sure.
Right, like
again,
I'm not saying. Again, this is not a deterministic effect. This is stochastic.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, and again, the whole entire thing is this is the admin's fault.
It is the admin's fault. Right,
they were told this is the rule, and they said we're going to brinksmanship this shit. It's like fuck you. This is not
So-
Vibe
so, like-
adminning.
like,
This is actual students' lives.
And again, right, like the question is how much economic loss do we suffer from DEI? How much sociocultural loss do we suffer
A
from DEI?
stupid amount.
How much research is not getting done because of DEI?
I mean, if you want to go down that road, yes, there are more theoretical people who are killed by DEI than by this setback.
Correct.
I would absolutely make that argument, sure.
And I'm right there behind you on that one. Right? Like I'm 100% in
I mean, I told you, like they compete against NIH grants for actual
do.
fucking research that matters.
There is legit research that does not get funded because of this
100%,
stuff.
absolutely. Like I can tell you right now, like I've seen that shit happen first person, and it's fucking annoying. Like it's really stupid. You think, okay, this person's researching something that has to do with like drug discovery on big data, and this person's looking at their fucking
feminist glaciology. That was
Oh my
$450,000 that didn't go to AIDS treatments.
That was the
Right.
fucking funniest shit that I'm glad we covered that as early as we did, because that is.
Well, I mean, and
As a
that's not
classic.
the only one. Like, there's half dozen autoethnography
There's
studies
so many.
that have been funded.
Yeah, that was the other thing is ethnographies being admitted as a doctoral dissertation. That is a thing in studies departments that you can just sit there and navel gaze and write about your life, and they'll give you a fucking PhD.
Yep.
If you make a paper long enough, they'll write. If you do a Dear Diary long enough, they'll give you a fucking title out of it.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about cheapening things, like if you ever wonder why I'm not going to insist someone call my ass a doctor, aside from me not being that asshole, it's like, well, what worth does that have right now? Exactly that kind of person is the person who just sat there and wrote about themselves for like 40 years and got a fucking degree out of it.
Yeah, if you want to sit there and you want to start diving into this stuff, I am 100% in the DEI stuff has resulted in more lives lost. And yes, I do think there's an overcorrection, right? What was it? I think I saw
Sure.
something that
It
said
shouldn't go too far, but like Harvard's not going too far. That's doing it exactly enough.
I think I saw one that said that studies of health effects on women. I think it was Alzheimer's and menopause.
Mm-hmm.
And it wanted to see because 2/3 of cases of Alzheimer's are menopause, and because they said it's a women's health thing, that resulted
Sure.
in them, losing funding.
I would
Yeah,
say
okay,
I would
so-
argue that it's because women will live longer than men, but
Well, I mean, that's a separate issue, but
that's probably
again,
a bias.
Is there an effect? Is there not an effect? What is the cause of the effect? That could be interesting.
Sure.
It could lead
I
to.
think that's interesting and not a studies issue. I think that's something for
No,
legitimate
it's not.
scientists
So,
to
but
do.
this is one of the things that got reported as a, hey, yeah, here's so sad. However, the problem with and again, like to your point earlier, you highlighted it absolutely correctly. Harvard is going to pull out and tear jerk everything that they can to say, hey, this is really unfair. And there are going to be legitimate things that are damaged because we didn't fund them. Now, the reality of this is that the lack of funding now just means it's delayed. You want to say it's a year?
Yeah,
I'm fine with saying that's a year.
I've been in that delay.
Is that sad?
It
Are there
sucks.
people who are going to die? Is it a problem? Does the research, in the gender, in the women's health thing, I think that's more problematic because it's probably system wide. Yes, all of that is fucking sad. But how much shit are we not funding that we really shouldn't have funded? And that's really the question. And
Let me
if
give
the
you a good
answer
example of
is
the other
that
way
you
around.
look at like these gender and race studies programs and they're no
Yeah.
longer getting funding and it sits there and saves us, $1 billion a year that goes back to real science, then over the long run, in the short run, yes, there's going to be some things that are delayed that we find valuable, but in the long run, this will allow better, either more scientific funding to go to more research opportunities that are more promising on actual, real hard sciences, and which will save more lives.
Well, let me give you a good example of the reverse that should never have happened. You remember under Obozo there was the whole finance pause, the sequester, the big sequester. That rat fucks. That completely rat fucks my work with developing hydrogen tanks. with CLCPs. Like that totally fucked us over. And that had long lasting impacts. Like that was a problem for us for like a year and a half. Like that is, if you want to talk about research pauses that were just kind of totally. And the worst part of it was, SRNL, they had the fucking money in the bank allocated to us, and they just weren't allowed to give it to us because they hadn't gotten it to us just in time. Like, just weren't allowed to give it. Like that sucked ass. But that was a problem we had to deal with. We were told you have to just suck it up, and so that's partly why I'm not really gonna cry when one of these gender studies professors gets told they can't have another grad student from across an ocean because they decided they hate Jews more than they like doing the research.
Yep.
Oh, and that's actually...
Which
And
case,
again, it goes back to
segue.
the earliest thing that we had in this in this whole entire thing, which was the left is performative. They engaged in a performance. They ignored any of their actual practical
They
concerns.
got the appropriate applause.
Without they got the attention that they sought, and then and now they've decided not to deal with any of the real world consequences. And when we talk about the middle part there that we dwelled on quite a bit is what should be the appropriate punishment for the abuse of government services and systems. This is a perfect example. That shit's gonna go away. Why? Because they're getting punished for it. And does that mean that we need to go excessive? No.
But we have to go appropriate.
But we have to go
and
appropriate.
Of course, there's questions as to what that means. Fine, but at the same time, I'm okay with what's going on with Harvard. That's
I'll tell you,
appropriate.
fellas, you just made the segue even better.
You're welcome.
Because there is indeed appropriateness and inappropriateness. This in particular,
Okay.
I don't think there would be a level of appropriate. So we're gonna hop on over to the two kids that were shot for some guy that hates Jews.
Oh, yeah.
There's an update, as a matter of fact, on Mr. Rodriguez.
Please do update.
Yes. Elias. Well, you know what? So you're old Adolf's best bud, and you're super happy that these Messianic Jews got killed. I've got some bad news for you. I have got some bad news for you, Hans. Because in the recently released tweets, or not tweets, actually, private messages from old Elias, well, he was wanting to genocide. Let me just read it here. Lol, you probably would have to actually genocide white people to make this a normal country.
Oh.
Like a very targeted and selective rehabilitation program would probably have to lead to the lifetime imprisonment of tens of millions of white people. So there's your update on Elias. He's not really anybody's friend. Just a crazy piece of shit.
Kind of specific on people he likes to.
That just wants to fucking kill people. That's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I just gotta say to all the fellow whites, as a halvesy myself, that welcome to the Judaism tier. You're now hated in such a way that people don't give a fuck what color your skin is, as long as you die for being the color of your skin.
Luckily
I know I might have gone over a couple of heads, but
because I don't look red enough. Dang.
I'm half Italian, so I might as well be black.
Oh well, yeah.
At least you're not Greek. You got to go ahead and count your blessings.
Well, these boys, they know my pronouns.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not repeating
and
them.
on that note, we oughtn't include them in this show because we are actually doing really well on YouTube, surprisingly enough.
I'm
Not
just
pulling
saying.
Yeah.
Hey, your pronouns are stunning and brave and very beautiful, okay?
They are very
They are.
stunning and brave.
And as soon as we get finished, normalizing those other words we were talking about, we need to get to that one. But we're not there yet. So, baby steps.
I don't know if this is going to stay up on YouTube.
I think.
Well, I mean, what do you call a Jew what do you call a Jew drunk off of beer? Schneiderbach. Oh, come on. You have more creative names than that.
No, possibly.
As I said, Schneiderbach. I thought that was creative.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. So let's see here. I could kind of close us out with some really happy, awesome news, like BlackRock suing United Healthcare. Which United's shitty,
That's
and
interesting.
BlackRock is shitty. So let them fight. Oh, you're gonna love this.
Yes.
You're gonna love this.
Reciprocity.
They're suing United because United Healthcare, yes, that United, the one with the CEO and everything, and the
What?
notorious denials, they're being sued for providing too much care. You can't hate these motherfuckers enough. BlackRock has to be
Now,
one
if you
of
ever
the
wonder-
evil corporations that ever existed.
If you ever wonder why they provide as much care as they do, it's because companies like BlackRock come in and tell them they're providing too much care. And they don't just send them a letter, they sue them.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
it's
Well, this is always the inherent problem. Is don't get me wrong. Like, I think that there's healthcare is one of the tricky things because coming in from a business perspective, we need to greenbelt the shit out of our healthcare industry. There are
No shit, right?
definitely systems out there in the world, and I'm not talking Canada and I'm not talking the UK, where we actually see really cost competitive, high quality healthcare. India is actually a good model of healthcare, where they've found ways to
Yeah, okay.
they optimize
I'm not
deployment.
saying
nothing
wrong.
of sewage.
I'm not saying that
Nothing-
that's epidemiological issues.
All I'm saying is that this is a country that spends a whole entire week throwing cow shit at each other.
Well,
I mean,
think
literally.
about it this way:
There-
they're
there
going to
is
have
a
really
whole-
good medical
no,
care.
We're
right?
talking about it. There is a difference between sanitation and healthcare,
Yeah. I'm just saying
and
that the
sanitary
healthcare
standards
burden.
in healthcare. The healthcare in India is cheaper and more available and accessible than it is in the
It's
U.S.,
certainly
the
better
UK,
than
or
China, isn't
Canada.
it? Certainly better than China.
What are you talking about? Cupping works.
And I mean, depending on where you are in China, the healthcare could be very good. I mean,
Oh,
There
dude,
was a
my wife
balls joke
came
in there, I'm
home
just
with
not
this
gonna make it.
big ass fucking bruise on her back, and I'm like, "What the fuck happened?" I did cupping. Do you know what that is? I'm like, yes, I do know exactly what that is. Yes,
it
I
worked,
do.
right?
Yeah. You know what's funny
so
is they're
the
making me
irony
do
is,
something like that for
she
my
does
scar.
she does acupuncture, right? Like, and I'm not gonna lie, like when we do the fertility stuff, because we're still struggling with that, it's kind of like science hasn't worked yet, so throw everything at the wall, right, and
Sure.
try to achieve. That's
Yeah.
where we are. And I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I have prayed. I'm an atheist, and I have prayed. I've done everything that I can because whatever the fuck will work, right?
Any port in a storm.
But
right
in
on.
this case, the cupping, and the reason I'm prefacing this is the cupping is different. The cupping is
Yeah.
she may have torn a rotary cuff with the accident that we had in November,
Okay.
and
That sucks.
yeah. So we're she had to go through physical therapy. They said, hey, this stuff's just not in the right spot. So that she's been doing a whole bunch of work with a physical therapist to like get everything realigned to see whether it's, she needs to go in for something more, or she needs to do this. And the cupping was actually a physical therapy thing, not like an alternate medicine thing.
Yeah. No, that's literally what they're trying to kind of have me do for the scar on my hand. Because I think, I got my bone surgically repaired.
I mean, you sitting there and having a health issue, that you have so many that I just don't care anymore. It would be significant, but like,
I'm just saying that they tell me I have to basically pull a vacuum on my scar with the extractor tool and rub it along there. It's basically cupping. In fact, one of the tools they said I should get is for face cupping, which I thought was fucking funny.
Huh.
I mean, so I'll be honest, right? Again, like I said, we're at spaghetti on the wall approaches to fertility here. I have found a couple different things. One, the Catholics have a healthcare thing that is actually equally effective to IVF.
Oh, I've heard
which
about
is
this actually.
Crazy to me.
I
haven't signed up for it yet. I gotta go. We're doing this transfer, and if this transfer doesn't work, I think my wife will be more receptive to it. but they do. And by the way, reading it, it's like here's root cause analysis, and they're doing a whole bunch of technical stuff that you
Yeah.
don't see in women's healthcare. Women's healthcare is fucking voodoo magic from the Western perspective. It's crazy. But one of the other things that I've been reading is a lot of this Chinese, the Chinese and is it Ayurvedic medicine
Ayurvedic.
theories?
Ayurvedic, yeah.
They actually have positive, like, reproducible results. They
That
don't,
wouldn't surprise
you
me.
know, the Western medical, the medical things that are testing these theses. They aren't like, oh yeah, this is exactly how, why their theory on why it works is true, but they are seeing things like Chinese herbs, and herb theory tends to actually have better results, at least amongst fertility, than chance.
Well, keep in mind, they've had hundreds of years
Yeah, a lot
to
of these
do
recipes are very well refined.
guess
as it
and
were.
check. They've
Right.
had hundreds of years to do guess and check on shit on the wall to see if something is going to stick.
Yes.
Now the why and the how effective and like, doing a bit of science and engineering to make something more effective, all that's kind of on our end. But
Yep.
that's probably the difference between medicine and the woo stuff is
Yep.
taking the stuff that isn't medicine, turning it into medicine, or disproving it's a thing.
Right.
And the rest of it is alternative.
So the crazy part is these alternative, like, so there seems to be a significant amount of alternative, homeopathic, Chinese, Ayurvedic, all of these things.
Well, the homeopathic
actually
I would
have.
argue against, but the Ayurvedic and Chinese I could see.
So let me be very clear in the homeopathic argument that I think is real versus the other stuff. Like, I know you did this whole dilution thing. You're like, do you believe this? And I don't. The homeopaths fundamentally believe that the body is self-healing, right? And that if
Sure.
you that it's basically, if we go back to the ancient, four humors type thing, there's whatever it is, there's something that's been caused by the system being out of balance. And while I can understand the hesitancy, I actually am firmly of the belief that sitting there and saying, hey, before we go and treat this new illness, let's take you off your meds and sit there and get you to a baseline and actually assess it. Because I have seen, and I am firmly of the belief that part of the reason that we have this crazy left-wing stint in women is birth control. Right? We introduce birth control.
Well, yeah.
There have
It
been
builds
some
up in
recent
their
studies
system. We
that
suppress their hormonal cycle.
have shown
We
us
fuck
exactly this.
around with female biology, and then all of a sudden, all of them have mental health issues and are hardcore liberals.
Never mind
And
the
you're like-
anecdotal evidence from women saying, when I come off of birth control, I feel more stable. And,
Right. And you can,
statements
like,
very
so
in that vein.
So a very good proxy for why is it that conservative women have better mental health than the more liberal women is I would be
Because they got
willing to
children.
bet you the proportion of people within each of those categories that is on birth control is radically different. Like, the hardcore conservative
Yeah, you
women
bet your ass.
are not going to be on birth control at anywhere near the frequency that the hardcore progressive women are. And so I suspect that that's kind of what you're seeing. Like, you're probably going to see this baseline deviation because women cycle harder than men. And
Well, I'll
that,
add to that,
by
too,
the way,
actually, one point. That a lot of the kind of crunchy moms that would do things naturally and watch their cycles and that sort of thing and, like, track everything so that they don't have to use that, where that used to be kind of a lefty deal, it's not anymore. So that other side also has kind of drifted towards the right and towards, libertarian values.
the crazier aspect of that. So going back with the Catholics. So the Catholics, like I said, they decided that they wanted to pursue bioethically compatible fertility treatments. Right. And so they actually are implementing a lot of, like, what is the reason for this? And it's almost homeopathic in nature in that, the system will naturally heal itself. But going back to when we were in school, when we were all in school, we all heard about the rhythm method, and we thought that was woo-woo magic stuff, right? And the woo-woo method as method of birth control had this high failure rate. Well, if you actually look at the modern interpretation of what is essentially the rhythm method,
Mhm.
Right.
and you look at statistical performance of that, it's on par with birth control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
It is.
if you're good and
You just have to
you're
fuck
like
it
on
up
top
once.
of
That's
it,
all.
then
That's the funny
it
part.
can be even better. But
Yep.
that's
It's
again,
funny
on
that
top of
the
something.
rhythm method is discounted largely because it's so easy to screw up. There's a lot more latitude in forgetting something and not having a kid all of a sudden. If you go down the route of like a chemical or hormonal birth control method, because like if with the rhythm method, everything is already natural and doing what it's supposed to do, and if you do what you're supposed to do at the right time, you have a kid. So
Yep.
mistiming it by
That's
a day
kind of
or
the thing
two
is
or
like if I
forgetting.
turn around and if I but on top of that for like the rhythm method equivalent, I can't remember what it's called. It actually has evolved into something that's a lot more specific, and it requires a little bit more monitoring. Women actually have to check where they are and what days you can have sex versus what days you can't have sex, where you produce a kid versus not produce a kid. It's actually explicitly like laid out.
Yeah, but I mean, the
But this
science has kind of been done, so now you can get
the
really
science
good
has been
results.
done, and obviously like there's fringe cases, women who have non-standard cycles or PCOS or medical
Right.
conditions, but on average your average woman can easily do non-hormonal birth control, and as long as she's like paying attention, and
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, I think that once you kind of get like familiar with it, it's probably no different than taking a pill every day, in
Well, I think
terms of
like for a
like
long-term couple, it's probably easier to do so because you have two parties interested in making sure you don't screw it up. It's instead of just having one person tracking it, you have two people who are capable of tracking it.
No, I mean that's certainly
Assuming good
possible, but
communication.
I believe so the rhythm method would be correct to your thing, but I think the current method, the one that actually meets and beats birth control, is a
Right.
measurement of vaginal mucus. So it would still be predominantly a woman-based control.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, again, it's the same level of competency as birth control, except you don't have any of the mental health symptoms. So I guess the question then becomes, when you talk about this, is arguably homeopathic, right? It's arguably homeopathic.
Eh,
So
not
I
Hahnemann
know
homeopathic, but okay.
you're talking about deep homeopathic theory. It is fundamentally that a natural system controlled in its natural form can
That's
be
also
as
modern medicine,
effective.
by the way.
I mean, I would
Natural resolution.
I don't know. I have my experience with doctors is not positive, and that is that they will charge you $800 for a diagnosis, have no idea what the fuck is going on, and give you 16 pills and hope one works.
Sure.
Right? I've been in that situation. So
I,
I
I,
don't
I
think that
agree.
I do not
It
give
happens.
doctors credence. And I give like again, this the Catholic stuff, which has the same success rates or higher than IVF and does not require anywhere near the amount of expense or drugs or anything else, and
Well,
focuses
hopefully
on
it
fixing
works.
the cycle, right? And then it ties into this other hormonal cycle, all of which does not create mental health issues. Whereas when you deal with women's health and you deal with Western medicine, Western medicine wants to throw women on birth control like no, all the time, every day,
As soon as
and
possible, too.
as soon as possible for any reason.
As soon as
And
possible, as young as possible, for as long as possible.
and we are seeing in our population that women are suffering from much higher mental health rates, and this is directly proportional political affiliation, which is probably more or less referential to birth control adoption. So when we sit there and we start talking about it, I just don't. It's kind of funny that all of these alternative medicine categories seem to actually be reasonably effective. I don't think, obviously there's good treating cancer as Western medicine or something like that. I'm not foolish to believe that, but it does seem that maybe just throwing pills down somebody's throat is not necessarily the best way to fix them. Right?
Okay,
And talk
RFK,
therapy
tell
certainly
us more
doesn't
about
seem
how
to have any
vaccines are
effect
killing
whatsoever.
everybody. Sorry.
Well, that's a whole separate challenge.
I had to put that out there. Come
Oh,
on,
yeah.
that's, very current.
Well,
Very current year.
gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's throw out one fun little one here because people have probably heard that, of course, there was Trump's bringing it back to Harvard. So they've been fucking around, and they're supposed to find out. So Trump's like, all right, well, we're freezing funding. And then court says no. It's like, fucking fine. We'll figure out a way, but we'll do it. But then he's like, all right, fine. No international students. And court says no. So he's like, okay, good point. We can't single them out. There will be no student visas. The end.
Clearly.
Yeah. So he's put all student visas on hold as of this time. Thanks, Harvard. I hope that all the regents and presidents and heads of the boards of these many and varied colleges and universities across these fruited lands have some words to say to the people at Harvard, because they're the only ones to blame for what's happening.
Well, and Harvard is hoping that these people will sit there and join them against the Trump administration. But again, it comes down to, does this really harm us? And the answer is probably no.
Yeah. They have every reason to stand against them. So,
yep.
Why not? That money, okay, let's send it to Johns Hopkins. Let's send it to Virginia Tech.
And by the way, if they turn around and they were taking some of these grants that they were canceling at Harvard and instead applying them to similar research that's being done at other institutions, they would. This goes to the Trump administration not being smart. They would gain significant favor if they did that.
That is true. That is true. So, one would hope that there would be some vetting, but who knows? Who knows? Anyway, as it stands,
you gotta hope.
As it stands, that's a strong move and probably a fair move, and one hopes that it will get things moving in the right direction. Another move in the right direction, despite all the naysayers and all the negative talk about what has been done by the Department of Government Efficiency in the past days. Social Security has removed 12.3 million individuals listed as 120 years of age or older.
That is so ridiculous that they were ever on there.
It is. And my comment on that is, you know what? Okay. If they're a vampire, if they're a Highlander, whatever. If they want to come out and be like, hey.
How about all the 8-year-olds? Can we get rid of those too? None of them have worked.
Both, yeah. Yeah, if the 8-year-olds want to be like, hey, look, boss, I gotta drive this little yellow car around all day. You want to come out and show what you do.
I got the farm, I got my semi. It's not making me the money these days. I'm on disability for my sciatica.
Yeah, you want to come out and show your work? Okay, sure, I'm down. But yeah, no, you got to go for now. So yeah.
God damn it.
So
I'm sorry.
So there we go. They got that. If you're still around, just come out and let everybody know, and we'll be good. In some other happy news, we have one of the federal attorneys that was one of the J6 prosecutors. We've got a bit of footage from her talking about how terribly sad she is at getting fired, and all I can say is for anyone who has
got fired.
Appreciation for Schadenfreude, I thoroughly encourage you to watch this video. It'll be the last one linked in the show links below. And with that, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. Ed, thank you for joining us. And that was a
good night, gentlemen. Yeah, I didn't talk much, but that's because I'm kind of stupid, and I really like listening to you guys talk.
Hey, no, you held your own quite nicely, so you're fine. You can find him at Lively Lethargy on the X Twitter platform of Majig. You find me at that fake guy Dan. You can find Craig at CraigBob99, and you can find Steve at Ratman720. Hit any one of us up. It's been a pleasure. And remember, the new Harry Potter's coming out. Is everyone excited for the brown mudblood? I hope you are. And if you're not,
What
good
about
news.
the
Black incel?
What about Snape?
Oh, you mean
What about
Snape, the
Snape?
black incel that's obsessed with a white woman? Or the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boy calling the now brown girl a mudblood? Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I hope you're all excited. So subscribe here for updates because we'll have them for you. I guarantee it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Genuinely been a pleasure. Give us all a follow as you would. Share everything around best you can. And see you again soon. Be safe out there.